Everyone, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, Suburban Night, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. For the record, we're awaiting Councilman Park, but I believe he's expected. Everybody else is here. We also have with us tonight our CFO. So we start our meeting off with public comment. This is a work session, so we have public comment at the very beginning. And we try to limit it to about 15 minutes, but everybody will have a chance to speak. I'm going to go around the room once, and then I'm going to start over here, and anybody that wants to speak or whatever.
Is this the only time to speak the whole?
That's correct.
No, but can I ask, because we're having bid discussion tonight.
Yeah.
Can the bid speak during that
Yeah,
discussion?
if that's what you want.
That's an agenda item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an agenda item.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll wait.
You folks want to come in and sit down, there's seats down the other end.
Thank you very much.
Going once?
Nobody,
I
you like,
guess I'm the first.
please. Just stand up so that you can be heard. These, by the way, everybody, for those of you that are not familiar, these recordings are now also on recorded for television, channel 77. So make sure you present your good side.
Oh, I don't want to second bid.
Well, it's a public meeting. But just state your name. We don't need your address, just state your name.
My name is Edith Kornfeld, known as Edie. And I just want to speak to the issue. It seems to me there is one issue that still remains with regard to the Nature Center proposal. And that is that the council passed a resolution permitting building and parking area on what I think of as the Green Acres property. And in view of the fact that there was a referendum and that there was a no vote and building is not going to take place there, I think that resolution should, I don't know what the process is, but it should be either voided or you should introduce a new resolution which could use the wording that was originally used when the land was purchased in the 70s, which said that the land would remain without development. I think that needs to be addressed. That would bring closure to the issue.
Thank you. Moving along, anybody else care to speak? Please.
I would concur.
So state your name.
My name is Alvin Meyerson, and I concur with Ms. Cornfeld with regards to the Green Acres proposal that took place many years ago, that the land should remain green, undeveloped in perpetuity with no development. And I think that the mayor and council should pass a resolution to that effect.
Thank you. Anybody else? Tom, please.
Tom Jacobs, 66 Magnolia. About a month ago, I sent the council and mayor a letter basically stating my views on this same issue, which I feel very strongly about. And I think that the referendum, thanks to your willingness to hear from the citizens of Tenafly, made it very clear that the people of this town would like to have the biking track left undeveloped and as open space. We all congratulate the council and the Tenafly Nature Center for being willing to listen to the results of the referendum. And we trust that future councils will not try to resurrect it without a lot more support from the voters of Tenafly. But the language remains, and the language permits the land to be developed at the discretion of the council. I doubt that it would require a great deal of effort or cost to have the rules revert to their original language and meaning. And I think most Tenafly voters would prefer the original language. I further think that most voters and candidates would prefer to have this issue put to bed before the next election cycle in November. Thank you very much for being willing to listen.
Anybody else care to speak? Okay, we're going to close public comment. And the first item on the agenda, we're going to move the agenda around just a little bit so that our CFO can get his 8 hours of sleep So he's on the ball tomorrow.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go to 1C and 1D first, and then we're gonna come back and do A and B. So
Okay.
first one is the appropriation ordinances for introduction.
Okay, there are several ordinances on the agenda to be considered. The first one, of course, is the multi-purpose ordinance. Now, we handed out a spreadsheet today, which is something that you had already received previously, but slightly different, so I wanted to go over that so you could trace the numbers into the ordinance itself, okay? The 1,601,113 appropriation is the way that number was arrived at. You take the number on the bottom of the sheet here, which is 1,125,563, which is the total capital request that you approved that the department had submitted, plus the 149,000 for the DOT grant that we anticipate receiving. And then we have ordinances that were canceled from 1408. That's a separate ordinance. It's a cancellation ordinance in the amount of 326, I'm sorry, it's a resolution, 326,550. So if those three numbers together add up to 1,601,113. So I just wanted you to be comfortable with that number as to how we arrived there.
Where is the 1,000,000? It's not here.
In the ordinance, in the 1508
In the
bond
ordinance, yes, but not on the spreadsheet.
No, it's in the bond ordinance.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I understand it in the
Right.
bond. Here you do have nothing.
The
that
number
has-
on the bottom of that sheet, 1,125,563.
Yeah.
That represents the total capital request exclusive of the DPW building.
It's the net of the request.
Right, it's the net, I backed out the DPW building out of that because we already did an ordinance for that project.
Yeah, I'm trying just to, and Gene, I'm trying to reconcile the 1.601 with any numbers over here, and I guess we have to add them up.
All right, so what you have if you have the ordinance handy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
that's right, it's
In
here.
the ordinance, in the body of the ordinance,
Yes.
there's language about the grant.
Yes,
The DOT grant,
149,000.
149,000.
Yeah,
That number, that 149 plus the 1,125,563 on the spreadsheet, plus the
1,000,001.
plus the 326,550.
Mhm.
There's a resolution for canceling balances in ordinance 1408, which is the 2014 multi-purpose ordinance. So those three numbers add up to 1,601.
Okay, so when we do next time, Gene, maybe we can have it also on the spreadsheet to match that.
Okay.
So we have the two of them.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Now, also in section 1 of the bond ordinance, it addresses the down payment that's required to fund these projects. And that's, that number is 71,813, and that's based on the 57, if you remember, we had $105,000 in the operating budget for capital improvements. That's the 5% down payment. So the 105 is, the way that 105, what's represented in that total is the 48,000 that we already are putting down for the DPW building. That was a $1 million bond ordinance. So that's 48,000, plus the 57,000 in this multi-purpose ordinance. That's the 105. And then there's an additional 14,813 that's available in capital surplus. So if you add the 57 and the 14, that's the 71,000 down payment that's in this bond ordinance. Sounds a little complicated, but,
Gina, just a question, if we're canceling out 326,000, wouldn't that offset what we're going out to borrow and reduce the amount instead of adding the amount in? I just got a little lost with the math there.
okay, as
So
far
I
as
get the
what
1.12, the total, that's the net of all the capital,
Right.
because some of it's already offset by different ordinances. Then we got the DOT grant, and then you had 326,550 in canceled ordinances.
Right.
So that's money that we didn't spend, wouldn't that reduce the amount that we're
Well,
going
that
out?
was, if you look at the, I don't know if you have the resolution.
I have the resolution right in front of me.
Resolution in front of you, okay. Those balances it was originally, we authorized the spending, now we're saying, we don't want that in 1408, we're gonna put it in this ordinance. So you're authorizing, the 1,380,300 that's in here for bonds that are authorized, that number is the 1,601,113 minus the DOT grant of 149, minus the down payment of 71,813, that's how we get the amount for bonds. But you have to include that 326, because we never borrowed against that number. That money, that we're authorizing it now to be, so we never really,
We never spent.
We s-
We never,
it's an unfunded,
Okay,
so we're canceling that authorization, basically, for
okay.
putting it over here.
Okay,
The
we're
shipping
borrowing
it
We
it
never
now.
got that money.
Right.
Yeah, we're borrowing for it now.
Right.
Got it.
So those are and there's an additional ordinance for, the, 1311 is an ordinance that, reappropriates $56,000, that's ordinance number 1507. Appropriates $56,836 out of ordinance 1311, which is the multi-purpose 2013 ordinance. And that reappropriates money to cover,
It's spread out
right,
over 3 different
right, exactly,
expenses.
exactly.
4.
Right, so that's, reason we're doing that is because the intent of the original ordinance was not for those particular projects that identified in that, so we have to
Reappropriate.
reappropriate.
And once we approve this ordinance, basically our capital budget is kind of done. And I don't want to say it's set in stone, but it's basically approved and that's it. If we want to change anything, we're going to have to rearrange within the existing capital if we want to rearrange the priorities of what we want to spend.
No.
I don't know what you mean by
If you wanna-
rearrange.
No, if you wanna do a new
Reclass
project.
Reclass line items, for
Well,
example.
no,
No, that's not the way it
you
works.
you can't just arbitrarily take
Move it
money
around.
that's in an ordinance and use it for something
I
else.
you wanna-
didn't mean, I'm
yeah.
saying the ordinance only basically deals with the total. The
Right.
ordinance does not deal with the line items.
It does.
in
Yes,
the-
No,
it
the
does.
ordinance,
Yes.
the ordinance, if you read 14, the new ordinance, 15,
Here, so it breaks
1508.
down all the expenses.
Every single one of
Right.
them.
There's sections in that ordinance that
Okay.
identifies each
I saw
project, so you're
Can I-
kind of
yeah.
locked into using it
Just
for
to
those.
clarify, when you say set in stone, this particular capital budget program doesn't mean that we can never do, that we can't do any other activities. Okay, we just approach them as a separate and individual project. You don't shift these dollars around. If you have completed projects that have balances, we can aggregate those funds.
If we want to do something like, let's say, and I'm not saying that I'm taking a thermal imaging camera and Tony's gonna jump all over me. I'm saying if I want to take a one and say, okay, you know something, we want to use this for the ambulance radios.
No,
You cannot do that.
no,
Okay.
not
So-
unilaterally and not
So what would be
artificially.
the process then?
Well, the process should have been if you really felt differently when we had the
I'm
meeting.
asking the process of changing something. I didn't mean specifically. What will be the process to change?
We just
Would-
went through the whole process of
We
doing the
just went
budget.
through the
I
process.
understand that. If we want to change something in the budget, what would be the process?
If you wanted to reappropriate
Yes,
dollars that are in this ordinance for other projects, you'd have to do what we're doing, you have to do another ordinance, taking funds out of this and reappropriating for different projects.
so we'll have to do
Which in effect
another,
means you would cancel some of
cancel this
the
one
projects that you would originally approve.
and have a different ordinance with a
Correct.
different line
Correct.
items.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was the question.
Okay, and then there's another ordinance in here for the Bergen County Capital Curb Program, what they call it, Bergen County Cooperative Curb Grant Program. That's simply setting up the grant. So the funds are in place when we actually go ahead with the project. The funds will be in place from the grant that we anticipate receiving from the county. It's a reimbursement grant, so we have to spend the money and then we get reimbursed from the county.
Okay,
Those are the ordinances,
I think that's clear, Jim, as clear as could possibly be. Let's go to 1D then.
okay? We have, if you recall, we had the MCDC initiative for the continuing disclosure that was required, that's
Yes.
presented. And we contracted with Phoenix Advisors to do that project. That was a set fee of $9,500,
Okay.
okay? There's additional work that has to be done, and they've sent the proposal in for another $650.
With the 650 or
basi-
6,500?
No, $650.
Okay.
That work took us through the last bond, the last bond sale we had was 2012. So that took us through that. Now they're going forward from 2012, and they need to have authorization to go ahead and do, the additional work.
And that's your recommendation, right, Jim?
Right, that is my recommendation.
Any
I'm glad
questions?
because last time we had a conversation over here when I was pushing for this municipal advisor, and kind of people forgot about that. This is so important to make sure that we get a fair deal with refinancing,
Right.
so that would be very good.
Now, also, that's a separate issue from the refunding bond. The refunding bond is, we're going through, you know, it's a regular bond. We have to do a call with Moody's. Moody's already sent over some requests.
And we will need a municipal advisor.
We
to
will
know-
need somebody, so government capital management is in your package here, as,
Yeah.
gave us a proposal that's lower than Phoenix. It's there's a lot of work involved in this. It's $3,500. Phoenix, the minimum that they would charge is $12,000.
Yeah, so
So
we
I
should-
recommend that we go with government capital, and if you read their proposal, it's very detailed as to what the scope of their work is.
Yeah,
And
and I
it
think
meets with your satisfaction there.
Yes, absolutely, and I've consulted with bond counsel on this. And then the next step will be to appoint down the road a permanent municipal advisor, permanent in terms of the 2015, and we would solicit proposals for that.
I appreciate so much.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay. That's it, Gene?
That's all I have. Anybody have any
Okay,
questions?
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you'll rent your seat from Councilman Barzalata and join us at the big table.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care,
Good night, everybody.
We're gonna go to 1A now, which is the Business Improvement District. Nadia, do you want to take the lead on that?
I can certainly take the lead on it, but we have moved this up from previous discussions we had. We had a presentation from downtown New Jersey, and after the presentation, we said that we would wait for another work session so that we can discuss the future of the bid. And the bids, most of the bid board is here tonight, so that we can have a discussion together about where we go with the future of New Jersey. And at the same time, Peter was giving some information that we all got from Peter Primavera about possibly engaging them in some type of study. So I guess we'll talk about that at the same time.
Well, this is I guess, I'm assuming because of the price, $3,800, it's less than the proposed $5,000 fee they were charging previously for I would assume, a more complete study, but the sense I got from listening to you and some of the others was that we're not prepared to do a study now, but we were all told that downtown, the bid is going to become a member of downtown New Jersey. I think the cost is only about $300. And-
$195, $295?
$295?
$295.
And that will allow the members of the bid to take advantage of a lot of the offerings of downtown New Jersey, seminars and meetings and things like that, so.
Yes.
Mac?
Okay?
Go ahead.
Yeah, at that time, when we had the presentation from downtown New Jersey, they also talked to us about the qualifications they have in order to restructure a resolution that in case that they bid and the downtown New Jersey get to practically nowhere and we're still having this problem with the bid, the municipality will be able to take over the bid and be able to then restructure the bid and create a new organization that will be able to
No,
deal.
that's not what was said. They said that, I don't believe the municipality has the, and Bill, you
No.
jump in, has the ability to take over the bid, that's not the,
Not,
that's not what
it
they
was
said.
basically that dissolve the bid and that they'll be able to preserve the money and recreate another organization that will then be able to manage whatever funds there were. And they have done that in other towns, and they have the knowledge to do so. So what I'm saying right now is the bid is supposed to come back to us in January, February, March, whatever. They were supposed to come back to us with a proposal. They never came back to us. They were, okay, let's dissolve the bid, let's do something. And they're gonna be now joining downtown New Jersey. So far, so good. The problem is, okay, what's going on next? Should we give them what we basically told them, 60 days, come back to us, have a plan, give us the plan so we know what we're gonna be doing, or we will have to take additional actions to make sure that something is done about the downtown Tenafly.
Right. I think you would be well served to give the others an opportunity to speak next,
I have
especially the
no
members
problem.
of the board. But Nadia, I'd like you basically to introduce the people that you'd like to speak and.
Well, everyone that's here, we have Stephanie Pasternak, she's the current president of the bid. Carol is the vice president of the bid. Robin was a former vice president of the bid. And James, anybody else here from the bid? No, so we have 4 members of the bid here. I raised the question of possibly dissolving the bid, because although members of the bid have worked diligently, again, it's the words philosophical differences. The board feels differently about how money should be spent moving forward and whether there should be a bid or not, which makes it very difficult to work together if there's so many difference of opinion about what the future of the bid should be.
Any comments from?
Yeah, I
Board?
agree.
Well, if you're going to speak, because not everybody on Channel 77 is going to know who you are, just state your name, and if you're a member of the board or an officer of the bid board, state your position.
Carol Geisenheimer, Vice President and past Treasurer. Here's the thing, the bid was established in 2008. The economy was bad, everybody was worried about the downtown, a lot of money was raised from the stakeholders, and they were never given a purpose. And even now we talk about, oh, come back in 2 months and give us a proposal. But what do you want us to do? We've done, I think, as much as we can. We've worked on the parking study for 3 years. I still to date cannot get a 2-hour parking sign put up when the commuters have taken down, right in front of Stop and Shop. Spoken to you, I've spoken to Jewel, I spoke to the DPW. There's no help from the mayor, the council, the town. So our 3 years of doing this parking study, and I gave everybody stuff at the last meeting, nothing gets done. So it's very frustrating for everybody when we put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and I go to the people, and then I was told at the last meeting, well, you know what? I think you should write a letter. No, I don't think after 3 years of presenting the study here at the table, Robin and I sat, I don't even think the town, when I say the town, the mayor, the council, I have property in Englewood, I go to their, not a lot, I go to their meetings. The mayor shows up, every once in a while a council member. I don't see any interest in the bid from the council and the mayor. I really don't. And I think we've done the most that we can do. And I really think it's time, the stores are rented. I don't know what more you want us to do. So I really think unless somebody here says, we want you to A, B, C, D, and that's why we created the bid, give us direction. Gave us some kind of direction. Okay, what do you think the town needs? Everybody here lives in town, and because there's no input, I just think it's time to dissolve it. And maybe there's another entity that can work out better. But I think the bid has really, served its purpose. And I would feel guilty taking any more money from the stakeholders when we've had almost $400,000 and we've had 2 bid directors, one at $65,000, who was part of downtown New Jersey. And if she couldn't come into the town and say, she's a professional, here's what you need to do. She had no suggestions except a couple of crazy marketing schemes. And I think now we have a really good chamber. I think Christine, she's not here tonight, very proactive. She's out there, bringing events to the town. And I think the bid has served its purpose.
Okay, somebody else?
Obviously enough.
Let me ponder.
I'm Stephanie Sauer-Pasternak, the current president of the bid. Lucky me. I do agree with a few of the things that Carol had said, but I also have a little bit of a far-range vision for what a bid can do and what the potential of our bid can do. I do believe that a bid, and as we learned from downtown New Jersey, from the presentation, a bid can't be successful without the support of the other organizations within the local government. So yes, we need support, more support than we've received. from not just everyone sitting here, but from other, planning board, zoning board, which we've actually, I think, built up a great reputation. We have someone from the planning board who comes to almost all of our meetings now. And we also have Jimmy has been our liaison to the planning board. And so we've really started to open up communications. But as I think with any local government, with any government, nothing is easy. Everything, you have a lot of people who all have the same goal. They all want to do good, they all want to make things better, but it's very hard. You have to get the okay from many different places. Yes, was the bid started in 2008 when the economy was really at its, bottom and its low? Yes. Has it gotten better in terms of what town looks like? Yes. But do the businesses in town and the stakeholders have a current need now and a current need going forward? Yes. Do they need to have a voice for someone or an organization like the bid to speak for them? Yes. I do also understand and agree with the fact that our board, for not just one reason, but for quite a few reasons, has had a difficult time moving forward. But I am the eternal optimist, and I believe that those things can really be worked on. I believe that this whole conversation that we've been having over the past couple months since Nadia brought up dissolving the bid, I think that alone has opened the mayor and the council's eyes to the fact that we need to have support, assistance, we really, and then the downtown New Jersey presentation, we can't be successful without that. But I also think that, we have abilities that people don't realize yet. Max, just to go to your point, yes, we were coming back to you with a report, but I remember very specifically sitting in at a meeting, I don't remember what meeting or a work session or what it was, where we decided we would not come back to you until after downtown New Jersey came.
Yes, correct.
So that's why we have not been back to
Yeah.
you, but we have not forgotten.
No,
I
and
just
I
want you
think
to-
that your honesty is so refreshing.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating because I really believe everyone in this room has the same goal. That's why we're all sitting here. Most of us volunteers, a great group of people on the board. It doesn't mean that everyone has the same opinion. And usually that's what makes up a good board, are people with different opinions, so that everyone in the town is well served. A lot of the, a bid in existence functioning properly, I think could be great, and it should always be there. There should always be a voice for the town, not just the downtown, but the area the outer skirts, which still include bid members. And I think that's important. So, I think that should be considered as well in your conversations going forward. I do know that one of the hot spots amongst the members of the board are the assessments that we have not had, we're not having in 2015, we did not have in 2014, and I agree. I mean, we are all here to responsibly spend the money that we have collected. The directors that were here before my time, so I really don't have firsthand experience with it. I joined the bid board at the tail end of Beth Littman's stay here, so I don't really know her well. I only knew her for a couple of months. I don't really know what her history was, except from what I hear. And I understand, Carol's concern. How do you belong to an organization where we had the woman right here in our own town and she couldn't help us? That being said, she's one person in a sea of many in downtown New Jersey. That's number one. Number two, I am not willing to, because I don't feel it would be financially responsible in terms of the board taking care of the monies that have been collected thus far, to even for $3,800 have a study done. Everyone knows my analogies. I believe it's great to be engaged for a while, and then we can decide to get married. Right, so for $295.
You taped it down.
Yes, we're on television now, it's coming down a little. So for $295, we also realize that dissolving the bid, if in fact that is something that you all decided to do, doesn't happen overnight. We are still the board and responsible for taking care of funds that we hold and taking care of the businesses that we speak for. That being said, and we had a vote at our last meeting, yes, we are not willing to spend right now $3,800 or $5,000 on a study. But for $295, let's see what happens. Let's join, and we actually have some questions. Khalid is not here tonight, but before we actually send the check in, the board voted we would. We just wanted to find out in terms of the stakeholders, like, could they attend seminar? Well, what does
What is it?
what does it encompass exactly? I know the board can go, can the mayor and the county, if we join as the bid, or maybe we should join as the borough of Tenafly. We weren't really sure who that would
Same price.
include. And we wanna make sure that if we do belong, and when we do belong, that we can offer all of these things to our stakeholders, because that would really be beneficial for them.
A couple of points. First of all, one of the fears of continuing the bid is that they're going to tax the stakeholders more. And that is not a realistic fear at this time, because the bid has not taxed the stakeholders. This will be the third year, Nadia, that they haven't taxed them?
I think
13, 14?
second.
Second year? Okay, there is no intent to continue that tax at this particular time. Let's go back to the establishment of the bid, okay? We, the members of the governing body, established this bid for two reasons. One is, we felt there was a need in our downtown that people were not satisfied. In fact, that's one of the most common complaints we get is, can't we do something about our downtown? Okay, and prior to the establishment of the bid, you had the Chamber of Commerce, which was really relatively dysfunctional, not due to the leadership of it. You had 2 or 3 people that were very energetic and very proactive, but they could not garner the support of the other merchants. And as a result, the Chamber really didn't accomplish all that much. And the only other body that could have done something is the mayor and council. And we didn't do anything. Prior to my administration, we did have a business development committee, but it was not an active committee. So we took a shot with the bid, much to my surprise, because it was during a downturn in the economy. We had unanimous support from the business community. I attended public meetings where there was not one negative person saying they didn't want to bid. And in fact, I had a number of people.
We were there.
No,
I missed that.
I'm sorry, you must have missed those meetings, because I saw merchants there that had never been to meetings before, who had never supported anything, and they got up and spoke positively about creating the bid. Now, at some point in time, you may have joined in, but I'm talking about the very, very beginning of the process, and I was surprised. Now, once the bid board was formed, I think we had the major problem we had is we had 2 directors that didn't serve us well for whatever reason. I'm not going to necessarily blame them, but we were paying them a significant amount of money and we got no return on that money. That was the biggest output of funds, was to pay the salary of directors. And one of the things I thought was a problem was the job description. We actually allowed one of the directors to work off-site. I mean, she was never here, and that was...
One day a month.
What?
1 day a month.
And you're paying somebody, whatever, $65,000 a year to spend 1 day a month here in town. I thought that was, I would say this, the bid board was relatively autonomous.
None of us hired her.
No, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying the bid board at that time was autonomous. We didn't tell them what to do. And that's one of the advantages of a bid board, is they can operate pretty much independently to a point. Their budgets have to be approved. So to come back and blame the council for not giving you direction, well, we were actually hoping that the bid board would come and say, this is the direction we want to take. And we really never got that message from any of the boards. And when Max or anybody else says, we're hoping you come back with a plan, what we really meant is, come back and tell us what you think needs to be done. And, you have a certain amount of money. If you needed more, we could discuss it. But we never really got the sense that, especially the last one, that you wanted to move forward.
But like the parking thing, okay, I'll just pass this around, which has been, everybody can get one. This has been going on for 3 years.
Well, I think, is it something that we saw already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the point I'm making is, the commuters park in front of Stop and Shop. They took the sign down, which was a 2-hour parking. There's 16 valuable parking spaces. If we could just get a sign put up. I have been trying for 2 years.
I'm a witness to that, because I passed it
I've
on.
spoken to Jewel, I've spoken to
Signs have been
DPW.
That's just one part of the whole.
Right,
Well,
but that's it.
Robin Brown,
Okay, go ahead.
bid board person.
Well, we understand that, I would admit that we dropped the ball on the parking, that we should have been a little bit more
But
proactive
that's
as
the
a
most
body.
important
Parking.
thing.
There's the signage. We met just a year ago, less than a year ago, just to get parking signage put up on these lots that are underutilized. And when you wanna have something done about the downtown, parking is one of the most critical elements.
There are already signs on all of the parking lots advising people
Yes.
that they can park after 10 a.m. So that's been done.
Okay, well,
ages
there is a
ago.
list of
But
things
I'm
that
saying
we.
parking signs, like
But what's now
directionals.
on the list
Directional.
are
Tony, would you
things
just pass
that
this down
were.
to Lisette?
But
Tony?
but now you're passing on to the borough, projects that initially started out as bid
Well,
projects.
but they didn't, okay.
Well, is it our property?
I don't wanna get into,
I mean,
I don't wanna get into.
We don't quite know what our boundaries are,
Like,
which
could
I
we just
think
go ahead
is
and do
part
it,
of
or
the
do we
problem.
need permission?
Well,
It's
I
like,
would-
it's
would-
really basically the same process as the banners. We've never received a map indicating where. If we had the plan for where you want to put the signs, then we would have the police department go out and inspect those locations and give us a recommendation or an approval, exactly the same as they did with the banners.
I know, I think we can only carry the parking signs
Okay.
so far. I'd like to hear from the other members of the governing body. You know, Max has already spoken, but Mark and
So
anybody else?
Stephanie, question for you. So one of the things, I've always supported the bid, and even when times get challenging, it's like, let's keep trying, see what happens, and give the process time to work itself out. One of the things I lack clarity on is exactly what does the bid want to do? In other words, is it a bid about parking issues? Is that 90% of its goal? Is it about the merchants having greater revenue? Is it about redevelopment downtown? So kind of like on a high level, what do you want to do? In other words, we have a lot of I'm going to interrupt you, sorry. A lot of conversations about the process and who votes and who used to work here, and none of that matters unless we have an understanding of what we're actually trying to accomplish here.
Like a mission statement.
What's the mission? What do the merchants want?
I think in general, there are a lot of unreasonable expectations of what a bid can do and can't do. And mostly I'm thinking of the unreasonable expectations of things that we really can't do that people think we can. You know, we cannot force a landlord to take a tenant. If a space has been empty for 5 years and a landlord or property owner is just unreasonable and has bottomless pockets and doesn't care that they're paying taxes, we can't, that's not our, I mean, we can call them up and say, what can we do to help you? We can, call, which is what we have been doing. There are other things, it's not just about parking. I think it's about anything that betters the town. And whether that be helping new businesses come in and get through the whole process in this building of how to open up a place of business, whether it be a retail store, a doctor's office, an automotive service place, or anything, any kind of business that is included within the bid. Whether it be going to some of these landlords that have vacant spots and saying, what are you doing? I mean, a lot of us here have relationships with very many different people within this town. Excuse me, property owners, business owners, residents. So between all of us on the board, I think that we pretty much hear from a lot of different sides, even residents, in terms of what they're looking for, what are we missing, things like that. So, I think that the mission statement of the bid is really to, in kind of in summation and in very general terms, to really just be the voice of the businesses and to ensure that they're being taken care of. Because from what I understand, and I don't know for a fact, what you guys do here is really a lot about the residences. You're dealing with the businesses somewhat, but who's making sure that their snow is being taken care of properly, or as quick enough, or as whatever it is that they need. This year, because it was something on our agendas over the past year or two, this year was such an incredible improvement, the way the DPW dealt with snow removal within the business district. And we had spoken to, I don't even remember who it was, but it was, right, Robin had spoken to the DPW as well as I'm sure 5 zillion other people about it. And there was a huge improvement. We didn't have, people could get into their places of business. Customers could park their cars. Last year, there was so much snow in the street, you couldn't even park your car to go into a business in town. So things like that, that's always going to be ongoing. So I think it's just a general example, but I feel like the unreasonable expectations that people have are just going to, in their eyes, set us up for failure. You know, like I said, we cannot force a tenant to fix their awning unless we work with the code officials to say, you know, this can be on our agenda of conversations with the mayor and the council. We really need to get the health code official in and other officials to really keep on top of people, whether they be businesses or landlords, to keep up with what our ordinances are.
Well, one of the reasons people might have an unrealistic expectation is because they were never given a sense of what to expect. And maybe that was the first job a director really should have had, was to come back and talk with the board about what you want to do, and then come to the mayor and council and says, this is the direction we're going to head, and maybe by taking some of the input from downtown New Jersey and visiting so-called successful business improvement districts, you can come back and say, this is a realistic plan that we can accomplish. And then we can decide, well, does that make sense to go forward with what you have to offer? Tony, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just, we've been writing some things down for a while. There's three things I have been talking about since day one. The first one being the mission. A mission statement. We really never had a mission statement, whether it be from our end or from the bid's end. The purpose, I've asked actually since day one for what is the purpose of the bid? And of course the plan. Now, I don't know how many meetings ago we had several representatives from the bid come here and present to us pages upon pages of plan of issues that they were going to address, that they felt the bid was going to address. But I think it was just words being written down on a piece of paper. You know, there's been a lot of questions as to what does the town need. I've heard comments like, the stores are rented. No, not all the stores are rented, and if I counted correctly, within four blocks of a radius within the downtown, we have 11 hair salons / nail salons. That would make us the capital of the hair salon, nail salon society of the world. In my eyes, the bid gave it a shot, but we've ran out of bullets. It's time now to hand in the gun and say we're done. You know, downtown New Jersey, I said it when that gentleman came here, and he made one heck of a sales pitch, in my view, to the mayor and council. And some of you have spoken about it tonight. Beth Littman, who is the director, our director, who the bid hired to do, I don't know what she was supposed to do, but she was also a representative, or she actually was on the board of downtown New Jersey. Now, to my view, she was the director who did nothing. And if this downtown New Jersey organization is the messiah, then why did that director, Beth Littman, not bring all the magical items from the downtown New Jersey to our bid at that time? I believe, in my opinion, that the downtown New Jersey organization is just another bureaucratic organization who collects fees and promises to wave that magical wand over downtowns and all the troubles go away. In my opinion, the chamber could address all of the issues that the bid has raised. One, parking, and you're right, we probably haven't done enough with that, I'll fully agree. Garbage, I've heard. Sidewalk, pavement destruction, it's interesting. Planning board, code issues. Snow removal. As I've stated in the past, all of these items are issues that our professionals should and could handle. The time has come to disband and give the monies back to the stakeholders. You know, one of the things that we've always talked about, even prior to talking about the bid, was the landlords. What can the landlords do? Well, I bet you if you took a survey of all the landlords, they made the renters pay the bid tax. Did the landlords ever think about lowering their rents to try to bring in business or to try to help the downtown? I certainly haven't seen it. There's been no waiver in the reduced rents. They just said, "Look, this is another tax that we're gonna impose upon the people that, you know, are renting from us." I will say though, that I will thank every one of you for all of your efforts. I mean, you've come to meeting after meeting, if you should run for council actually. You've done one heck of a job, even from the people from day one. They've given it the college try. But it's time to dissolve and move on.
Anybody else at the table have anything to say? Nadia, please.
Does anybody else wanna say anything first? You and I have had a lot of discussions over this, you and I feel very differently about this, but you mentioned landlords. Communication has been the key problem for a long time. And our ability to reach out to the landlords has been quite hampered. We've hired college students or high school students to knock on each door to get contact information. When the bill was sent out, we sent a little detachable piece that said, okay, give us your contact information so that we can email you, write to you. If we got back a dozen out of 180, that was a lot. This is just a small portion of the last mailing that the bid did. And this was a list given to it by the borough with the owners of property and their contact information. So if we have 180, we get back 30 to 40. So how can you get back 1/6 to 1/5 of the mail from the landlords when we're getting the information from the borough and it's not the correct information? Very hard for us to communicate to stakeholders when we have no contact information. And this has been going on since the bid started. And to go back to a mission statement, the bid had a mission statement. It's been revised 3 times, but there has been a mission statement. That was done way back in 2009 when the bid board started. When the bid board started, I don't know how many, 9, 10 people were appointed. Okay, we're in a room. Okay, you're now a bid. Figure out what to do. So you got 10 people in the room, most of them who were business owners who were coming in at 6 o'clock after work. I'm really not directing this to you, Tony. But, as you said, giving it the college try and having to self-educate to figure out. At the same time, we had a transition to borough administrator, and with no disrespect, the previous administrator had taken a very big lead in proposing the bid and pushing forward the bid. And we were going to rely quite a bit on his expertise, and he had come to 2 meetings. The chief had come to a couple meetings. Bill had come to a couple meetings. We were tied up with litigation from the get-go that we started. So we wasted a whole year on ridiculous stuff. So it was tied up in a lot of wasted time, unfortunately. And time got away from the bid when we were tied up in minutia, making sure that we filed a tax return, making sure that we had bylaws, making sure the ordinance was correct, making sure following up the money. It took 2 years to get the first set of money from the borough. There wasn't a process to hand over a check to the bid, so we couldn't hire anybody for 2 years because we didn't have any money. How could we hire anybody? And figuring out how the assessment would be handed out and who would pay for the tax bills. It was just, we formed a group well before we knew the mechanism of what the bid would do, unfortunately. We put 10 people in the room and said, okay, go ahead, go to work. So
My only concern is if we dissolve the bid, I think it's unrealistic to depend on the Chamber of Commerce, even though there's a real worker with a lot of energy running the chamber now. The chamber has limited support from the merchants, has no financial credibility because they have to kill themselves just to get people to pay their dues. So anything that costs money would be a big problem for them. That was one of the advantages of the bid, is there was a funding process for something they wanted to do. So I think at this particular point in time, we should do 2 things. One is that at some point, each one of us needs to take a step back and think about what we expect, what we'd like to have, and how we go about getting it from our downtown. Are we just going to say, it's okay, and maybe people think it's a good downtown and it's never going to be any better? I don't know. But that's not what I hear from our residents. But tonight, I think I'll ask the members of the council if anybody wants to propose an action that involved this. And if there's a consensus, then we'll move forward on it, whether it's to allow the bid to continue and become a member of downtown New Jersey, whether it's to dissolve the bid, And if, there is no, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, no legal path. It's not like if we dissolve the bid today, tomorrow, that money goes to a specific place. That's open, as far as I understand it, it's open to conjecture.
Resolved
All
issue,
right,
yes.
so that would be another thing to discuss, and I don't even know if we, the members of the governing body, have the ability to direct that money somewhere, because it's not our money, it belongs to the bid, okay? And if the bid is going to be dissolved, so
Peter, let me just ask a question.
you'll ask the attorney, I think?
I'm gonna ask the question in general. And this just goes back to a comment that was made by Nadia, when you talked about the mission statement. And there was 3 revisions to our mission statement. I look at, as somebody in the safety profession, OSHA has a mission statement to protect the American worker, to keep them free from injuries and protect their health. And they have a whole set of things that they do to do that. Now, if we was come up with 3 separate missions, what have we done, or not we, but what has the bid group done to fulfill their 3 separate
Well,
missions?
they don't have 3 separate missions. I
Yes,
think
they
what,
have.
no,
She
what
just
she,
said they had
what she
3 different-
meant is it's evolved
is-
from one mission to another to another.
That's 3 missions.
Well, one at a time. They don't have 3 missions today.
Do you wanna hear a brief paragraph of what it is? Tenafly's Business Improvement District was established to promote and enhance the safety, welfare, and economic climate of conducting business in Tenafly. It is dedicated to the benefit of both the businesses and property owners, recognizing that they are an integral and vital economic and social component of the borough of Tenafly. Towards that end, we have hired an experienced bid director, this is the one from that time, to help us understand the requirements of a bid as set forth by state statute, allowing the creation of the bid and the possibility of what can be accomplished. And there were 3 key words: revitalize, recruit, and re-energize. At that point, that was the mission
3
statement.
R's.
3 R's.
Max, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I would like to bring back downtown New Jersey. I distinctly remember that they said that they have advised other towns on how basically dissolve the bid, keep the money, and then restructure a new organization that would be able to really do what really the bid needs to do. I would like to bring them back or have a contact with them saying, can you do that? And if they can do that, I think that should be the next action that we should take.
I don't think it was
That's
a
not exact-
different organization.
Right.
It was to restructure
Restructure
the
the
bid.
Yeah,
He would
but-
help us restructure the bid.
Yeah, but it basically would be the same,
Well, I'm-
restructure the bid in a way that is creative, yeah.
Dan, please.
How is the current bid structure set by state statute or we set?
No,
What do you
by
mean by
our-
structure? We have an ordinance.
We have an
Yeah, but
ordinance.
the ordinance follows the,
State.
right, enabling statute that we have.
But
Because
how-
only
Composition.
a special improvement district can receive funds the way.
Well, outside of that, that's fine, but the structure, members, voting
We
members.
changed the ordinance and
What powers do we have
We
to
originally,
restructure?
we originally passed an ordinance which defined the makeup of the bid and how it would be created.
But is that based off state? What freedom
We can
do
change
Well,
that.
it's, the state gave us boundaries.
Right.
We were within those boundaries. However, a year or two passed, and we changed that ordinance. We changed which led to a different makeup of the bid board.
Oh, so
We
it's
basically gave the stakeholders more power.
possible. Okay. So there's.
There's flexibility.
There's flexibility, okay.
So what I've heard from more than, go ahead.
So, question, so do we have a sense, maybe Stephanie or Carol, you can answer this question, what the majority of the bid members would like to do? Where are
They would
they?
Could I-
like
could
to
I,
dissolve.
We're having our annual meeting in May, and I would like to know if you're willing to, like you did with the Tenafly referendum, willing to get a vote from the actual stakeholders.
If they show up.
Well, they don't have to
Well,
show up,
but
they're not going to show up by vote.
I mean, the problem that we've always, which Nadia described, is engaging the stakeholders.
Well,
They're, you know what I'm
of course,
saying?
because,
So
well, part of the
if we
problem
have
is,
180 stakeholders, and if only 15 people are voting,
It's the people that
well,
care.
part of the problem is you
No.
have such a diverse makeup of stakeholders that aren't really have anything to do with one another, from the nursing home,
that's what business districts are all about. They're not,
Well, I understand that, but that's why there's
we do
not
have
a
11
cohesive-
people with nail salon interests.
Service industries are part of what really makes up their downtowns now.
Right.
Retail's a little bit more difficult, but that said, you have a very broad area too, with more different, interests. It's not a downtown, it's a broader area. And I think there's a lot of people who don't want to be in the so-called downtown being taxed for marketing purposes, and that's where one of our philosophical differences really comes into play. But the other thing is, just to be pragmatic about it, there are just infrastructure things within the town that need to be addressed by your own agencies, which some you have, and I think that was we were completely backing the things that the planning board did, expanding the uses, making the waiver, the site plan waiver. That was the best thing you could have done. That's half the battle of having a business come into town. That in itself opened up all the doors. Then there's parking, which you have to make more either visible or available, and you're limited with that too. There's only so much you can do. But the other things that this person from downtown New Jersey was saying, I kind of took umbrage with. I felt a little bit insulted by the fact that he was talking about probably bigger cities bringing in their Johnson & Johnson CEOs. All well and good, but this is not Livingston and Newark and a big city that we even have those redevelopment zones or those options. We have a couple of vacant buildings, which will, when those landlords get their senses about them, something will happen. Nobody holds something endlessly, such as Charlie Brown's. I see that it's maybe going to be a childcare center. That's on the planning board.
Well, Tony made a comment, and he's absolutely correct, and that is that you haven't met our expectations. The question is, what are our expectations, and were they
Right.
realistic? Because
No.
nobody ever
They're
came
not.
to us and said, this is what we want to do. So I think downtown New Jersey can help you because they are connected with a lot of business improvement districts. We need to find out, are they all Livingstons? Are they all big towns, bigger than us? Or are there success stories that have a lot in common with Tenafly? If there are,
Didn't he say they had a smaller program that they were doing like a pilot on?
if there's
Right?
municipalities of similar ilk to ours that have successful bids, we need to pick their brains and figure out what works here.
Summit has a very.
I'm sorry?
Summit has an extremely successful bid.
How big is Summit?
But Summit's a large town.
Summit,
I don't know.
But Louisa, getting back to the question that was asked, the majority of the directors are in favor of dissolving the bid.
Say again?
The directors, not, I'm just talking about the us, the directors. Board.
I'll tell you, right now, we are only a board of 9. We originally were designed to be a board of 11. But there was so much flux going on, we're trying to it's hard to find people for a board that's in such a state of flux as this is. That being said, I was actually initially elected as a co-president with another person who resigned from the board because of all of the hubbub that's been going on, and the difficulty that's been going on. I don't necessarily know that, the majority of the board, feels that way. I know that it could be almost even, but there are 9 of us now.
Well, I would suggest the following, and Dan, you have your hand up?
How do you guys feel about a reorganization of it?
I'd just like to say something before we go on. I don't think downtown New Jersey is a silver bullet.
I agree.
And everybody in here, most everybody lives in town. So why doesn't somebody tell us? When was the last time somebody walked downtown? To walk around, to see what's going on, to say, hey, maybe we ought to do this or do that. I haven't heard from anybody. The residents are complaining about the downtown. What are they saying? What's wrong?
Well,
Other than the traffic lights, you'll sit there
Well,
forever.
well-
But that can't be changed.
But what are they saying, by the way?
they're saying that they don't like the mix of stores. Like some member of the council would say, we have 11 nail salons. Well, the last
But
time
the
I
store's
checked,
rented.
the last
They're
time I
rented.
checked, our economic system is based on free enterprise.
Correct.
And if the 11th nail salon failed, it would go out of business. Apparently 11 of them are doing okay, where some of the restaurants, we'd love more restaurants, have gone out of business.
Free to
So-
liquor licenses up.
Well, that's not a local situation.
League of Municipalities, I
It's-
know.
Well, the league is working very hard on that. So-
But how is it even possible that there are like 3 or 4 liquor licenses just being held? It's like-
That's the state statutes allow them to be held as long as they maintain their certification. They pay a fee every year. You know, I frankly don't understand why somebody would hold on to an asset that's that valuable with, you know, everybody thinks, well, maybe next year somebody's gonna come out of the woodwork and give me a fortune for my liquor license.
300,000 they want.
But the fact is,
Well, that's why there is a movement down in
it's
Trenton to
limiting-
change the rules.
Charlie Brown's, it's limiting to all those other places when you have these licenses for 300,000, you like destroyed the restaurant business. Pretty much, not you, I'm
You know,
just saying
I'm
that.
a little surprised that nobody in the board, from the bid board, is up in arms saying,
It's not
we
normal.
brought in Beth Lippman, who was a representative of this grandioso downtown New Jersey. And what did she do for us?
It'll be more of the same.
Well, what did she
It's
do?
It's
But wait,
marketing.
but I'm saying that she's brought with her that mindset. She's got that downtown New Jersey sitting on her shoulders. So what did she do for us here in Tenafly?
I
Other
wasn't
than get a
on the
salary.
board then, but maybe Nadia can say what she did. I don't think she did all that much except for some very poorly timed marketing plans, like having a bagel promotion over Passover.
I think the
and
question
other
should
things.
be, how and why did Beth fail? Because I'm under the impression that Beth has had a success in another town. So why did she fail here? Was it a failure of her own? Was that a lack of support from Borough Hall or from the bid board? I don't know. I wasn't that close to the scene.
Is she a success in the other towns?
Yeah.
Or is she still working there?
I believe
Yes.
she's
Did you hear
where
from
is
any of
it?
the store owners there, you know? Somebody can have a job and just keep
Well,
rolling
you
with
know
it.
what, can we not
I think
destroy somebody's character?
But,
She
yeah,
may
I-
not have worked for this community, but I really think it's starting to be inappropriate
I
to
couldn't
blame
agree
all
with
of
you
our
more.
ills on Beth Lippman and maybe the person we had before, because it really is unfair.
I would agree with you 100%. In fact, unless somebody has anything additional to add, I'm going to ask that we close the discussion on this. The sense I have is they're going to have an annual meeting. They're also going to consider joining downtown New Jersey. You want to find out what membership entitles us to us being the borough. Does that mean the bid board? Does that mean mayor and council can come to these things?
But I had a
Peter, how many
proposal.
times are we gonna kick the can down the street? How much longer? Should we kick it another 2 months? Another 2 years? What are we doing here? Enough is enough.
Well,
Either make a decision, yes or no. I mean,
About
come on,
15
Peter.
minutes, about 15
Really?
minutes ago, Tony, I asked if anybody wanted to suggest an action.
And
I-
I
suggest
Well,
we
I don't think
disband
that you
it
should
now.
make the motion, Tony. I really
I
don't.
made a suggestion.
What's the
The
suggestion?
suggestion is to bring in the downtown New Jersey to tell us how they restructure the bid in other towns to make them successful, to see if we can do the same thing.
Once again, Max, you're describing something that I didn't hear.
Okay,
And I-
well, there are many things you didn't hear. Last time we talked about the financial advisors, you didn't hear.
No, that's not how
Well,
it went
let's
down,
bring
Max.
them in. Let's bring them in, and if they didn't say it, they didn't say it.
Anybody else support that?
No, I wasn't saying yes to that. No. That's nothing personal. I have another proposal because we've been, it's April, you said, right? So we've been going over this for months and months and months. And so, my view of this, if I had to make a decision tonight, I would dissolve the bid. I would return the tax dollars back to the stakeholders. And then I would constitute a committee of borough council with two members from the borough council and members from the existing bid board or bid members to figure out exactly what we want to do going forward and basically take a step back after everything we've learned over the past 5 or 6 years and then start it over again. Because we can't keep going around in these circles of past history and all
Well, let
this
me
other
ask you a
stuff.
question. Do you really believe that if we went to the extent of dissolving this bid, that there would ever be another bid created for?
I don't, maybe
basis do you-
whether we need a bid or not, I don't have the answers to that question, but we can't none of us as a group, the bid and the council, have been able to articulate a clear goal of what we're looking for. And we can't keep just kind of, you know, skipping forward and tripping over ourselves, trying to get to a goal that we have a lot of, we have disagreement on this council, we have disagreement amongst the bid. So we pull the plug and we start over with a different format, and we come up with a clear idea of what we want to do. Do we want to do development downtown, redevelopment? Is it about revenue for the merchants or something to do with the nail salons? There's a lot of issues, and we need to pick one to try to move forward successfully.
I think dissolving is too extreme. It'd be too much of a headache to restart this project up again. I think reorg is the best answer. We gotta figure out how to make it restructure.
Well, I think when we say restructure, my suggestion would be to ask for the resignations of the entire board, for us to look at the ordinance that created the board as it's structured today, and change that structure to in a manner that would be a little bit more supportive of a bid. Because when we talked about changing the ordinance and creating the structure that it now works under, I suggested that would create a situation that has come to pass. That is, that we would have people that want to dissolve the bid controlling the bid. And that makes no sense to me, really. With all due respect, it's not that they haven't worked hard.
No.
But you have people, the control of the bid was passed on to stakeholders who didn't want the bid to exist. They were above board. They made their feelings known before, and it's very easy when you have only 15 stakeholders out of 180 that are active. But, you know, if we're going to do a bid, we have to take into account that the majority of the stakeholders are passive. They really don't want to get involved. They don't want to help themselves. Right? That's the situation here. I mean, if you don't want to do a bid, that's fine. But we have a bid in place, and I'm suggesting that we don't collect any more money. So there should not be any real necessity to close it tomorrow, because it's not costing anybody any more money.
Exactly.
And let's see if we can create something. And you know, I'll put together a committee if 2 or 3 people want to serve on it to restructure that ordinance. And maybe we can come up with something. And if we can't, then we can always dissolve the bid. In the meantime, let's take a membership for $300 and see if we can get anything out of it of any value.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone
And the bid has agreed to also pay for that. So that's not an issue. I think that
Just
they.
told us we're all fired, so.
No, we.
You're asking us to resign, clearly.
Before you close it, we'll slam the door.
That's an extreme.
I think we're the 2 check signers, so.
Well, no, but I think you understand. Well, we're not saying
I
you did a
wanted
bad
to,
job. But
again,
it's silly to sit here and be on
we
something
did
that you
not
want
like the way the bid was going.
I agree.
And I got on, and I have done nothing but work hard on this to
Which is what I said.
redirect it
I know.
into a way that benefited more people than the few people who were doing marketing for their self-promotion.
Right, which is
So-
what the problem with the chamber was. There were only 3 or 4 people working really hard, and they were the ones that benefited from whatever the chamber did.
Yes, and that is what I found
Human nature.
most offensive.
It's different.
When you're
Right, man.
taxing a broad range of people that have no benefit to the self-promotion that was going on. I wasn't for that, but the things that several of us have
No, we
worked
have to
on
restructure it.
have benefited everybody, residents included. And there is not that much more for us to do, honestly, that are broad-reaching, that really are within our powers.
So I think there's twofold that we have to go forward in. First of all, we have
I'm
to.
happy to resign though,
We have
because
to.
this has been, I don't have time for this, because this is like being in the
Well,
hamster cage.
I think we should do two things, and if members of the bid board don't want to be members of downtown New Jersey, then maybe we should take a membership out as a council and have 2 or 3 people that have the interest deal with downtown New Jersey and see what we can get out of it. See if we can find a bid that works, one that has something in common with Tenafly, and try, because I'm not ready to throw the towel in on our downtown. I think we can do better. I'm not exactly sure how to go about it. That's why I thought the bid might be a good tool. And it hasn't worked in there. Nobody's denying that. Not through lack of
I
effort.
don't want to cut you off, but what's wrong with our downtown? All I heard was nail salons. I haven't heard anybody say what's wrong with our downtown. I mean, other than I'll say the traffic lights.
People don't think it looks like Southampton. That's what's wrong with it.
Ah, okay.
I have one more, sorry to interrupt. One more thing.
We got the commons,
You
isn't that
had-
the beach?
You might have gone through as many mission statements as you did to change your bylaws. And the bylaws were really quite fair this last round, where actually people were elected by the stakeholders, the people who are members in there. And the first election, not this second one, was not a bad turnout, given the fact that people were being taxed. They really spoke up. The second election, when no one's being taxed, no one really cares. And that's why it's such a low turnout.
So are you suggesting we should tax them again?
No, no.
Is the tax rate set by ordinance?
In part?
The tax
They
rate
come
set
forward with
by
a
budget.
budget.
Yeah.
And then we agree to it.
We approve the budget, so in order
Can
for
we tax them
them,
$1?
in order for them to create the tax, we have to approve it.
You could have made a flat tax, everyone pays the same amount.
Well, then you have the small people complaining that the big ones like the Clinton are paying the same as me, that's not.
Well,
Yeah.
you could have
Fine.
something like Nadia
Well, you know-
recommended, that's not a bid per se, but a committee of
Right.
people who are willing to work. to-
Economic development, visual
Well,
improvement.
let's look at it this way. We're gonna form a committee to review the ordinance, and maybe they'll come back and say, you know what, the bid isn't the best tool, let's dissolve it. In the meantime, be happy that there will be no more tax for the time being, and, you know, any future tax is way off in the future at the most, and at least it may never happen again. So let's see, Nadia, would you be willing to chair a committee? And I'd like to do, I'd like
No,
to.
I'll chair it with I'll chair it with Maura,
got
co-chair it.
Fair
I
enough.
will co-chair it with
So
Maura,
you
I
can
want
do
to take the sole
piggyback, you can do the
responsibility.
open space meetings and the bid meetings at the
Yes,
same
we'll
night?
yes, we'll do the same night, whenever.
Dan, would you work with them?
Oh,
So there's
perfect.
three members of the council, and I would suggest, Nadia, that you try and get at least 2 members of the
Existing bid.
existing bid to work, and let's see where we go. Okay, anybody else? And I share your frustration, Tony, but I think the good news is no more tax for the time being. And, you know, if the money is not going to be spent in a positive manner, it will be returned. Just give us a little more time. Okay, I would, yes, Nadia?
I'm sorry, can I just ask that we follow protocol and move Mr. Jacobs' letter?
Yeah, I was gonna say, since the majority of the people that are not normally gluttons for punishment and stay for the whole meeting are here for the nature center, let's do that next.
Bid over?
It's over.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, Jimmy, sorry.
Mr. Jacobs sent a letter to us a couple of weeks ago. Lisette, did you respond to that letter?
Yes.
Okay, so Lisette responded to it, and basically, because although we never really discussed that letter per se, we had discussed the subject matter. And Lisette passed on that, the end result of that discussion to Mr. Jacobs, but Councilman Bosch suggested that he'd like at a public work session to bring that letter out, so we've done that, and
Can I just ask, as just maybe now that these meetings are televised, as just a matter of future, again, protocol, is that when someone writes a letter to the mayor and council, it usually shows up under correspondence if the clerk is copied on the letter. So the clerk really needs to be copied on the letter, so each of us don't have to ask for a particular letter to show up on the agenda. So it would be an automatic function that if people want to communicate with the council, they can either send it to the clerk or send it to all of us and copy the clerk as well, so that a council person doesn't have to wait 2 or 3 meetings later for this to show up.
Well-
Because it never made it to the agenda.
well, for example, I got a thank you letter today from Jack Kraft for the resolution we passed in his honor and his behalf. That didn't go on the agenda, but Lisette put it in everybody's mailbox, right, Lisette?
But there
Okay.
wasn't an action for us to
Well,
take on that.
do you want to I don't want to say defend, but you want to explain why this letter never went on the agenda before?
Because that wasn't copied, right?
No, sure.
I received, the letter was forwarded to me, but I did not receive it, and mayor and council had discussed it, and that's why I attached the minutes as a reference that the attorney provided a legal opinion on the matter, and that's the response I provided with the attachments, and I copied council and the administrator and the attorney in the cover letter, and it's back on the agenda because Councilman Bash.
Okay, well, I don't think it's inappropriate that it's on the agenda, but do you want to talk about your legal thoughts on this? Because I don't want to spend an hour and a half if your legal opinion.
I'm just going to, I'm not going to go into some specifics that I don't think is appropriate for discussion in the open, but I will say this, because, and I read the letter. The letter that calls for Resolution 13-329 to be rescinded really misses the point, and I think really creates a make-believe or artificial issue. And this is why. Resolution 13-329 was very specifically tailored for that Discoveries and Education Center that was proposed, that very specific one, for a very specific site. I'm addressing the allegation or the claim that the rules were changed. Not really. Because if you read that resolution very closely, and more particularly you look at the 7th whereas, where it defines that Discovery Education Center, it's very, very specifically tailored to that very project and building. If that very project and building is not built, the change to the rules is illusory. There's not really a change to the rules. It was very specific to a specific set of plans presented at a time. And it says if there were any change from that, then it has to be approved again by the mayor and council. And keep in mind that mayors and council, governing bodies, act by way of resolution or ordinance in more serious things. Saying, oh, you should rescind that resolution, even that action is only temporary because any mayor and council could undo that. I mean, they could change it. So this is really a manufactured issue. It's meaningless because there really wasn't a change in the rules. It was because it was very specifically tailored to just that specific building. And if you read closely, it's all subject to all the other conditions that were in that resolution, which aren't satisfied, will never be satisfied. So really, there isn't a change. So action, that's the action that you're looking for, is really, it's meaningless. It could be done, but if it isn't done, it doesn't really matter. The other thing I'll point out is that in the lease itself, which again is very, very specific with respect to how it defines that Discovery and Education Center. Again, it's very specific to that specific set of plans, which are going forward and never got the approvals that it needs and never will. If that specific thing is not built, if construction doesn't start on that very specific project within 5 years, the lease becomes a 1-year lease, cancelable on 90 days notice by the borough. You're not gonna, no one's building anything there. There's no change to the rules that needs to be changed. You could rescind that resolution, sure, you could do it, but it's really not necessary.
You know.
And again, I went back and I just read it again tonight very closely. While the discussion was going on about the bid, I was reading through the resolution again. It's meaningless. It's not a change to the rules. All right. I mean, there's really nothing to worry about. I don't. If someone could really tell me what the concern is. Oh, they're going to resurrect the project before the 5 years is up. If you were to rescind that ordinance and it was resurrected somehow and the then governing body approved it, it would go forward. If you rescinded that ordinance and it somehow got resurrected in the next 5 years or 10 years, and the governing body was of a mind to say, okay, they could do it. So, changing that is really just I think it's mental salve.
Max?
Yeah. We had over here a vote. And there was a vote that started with my and Dan elections as council people. And what the vote was all about was should we build or not over there? The structure of the vote was made as such there was some sort of a blackmail you either build this or you got nothing. And a lot of people say, oh, $7 million, okay, they buy a lot of politicians for that money. The town didn't get bought by the $7 million or the blackmail, you either build or don't build, and they voted overwhelmingly not.
Max,
After, let me finish.
No,
it's my
but
turn.
you're spewing misinformation.
It's nothing misinformation.
It is a
That was
total
the only thing.
Dan was an avid supporter of the Nature
No,
Center.
Dan
The
and
two
I
of
were-
you supported a referendum.
It's
That's
exactly
all.
what I said.
No,
The
that's not what
referendum-
you said.
I said the referendum was done because Dan and I were elected as part because we wanted to have a referendum.
Right, but no, you
And
said you opposed the project.
I didn't say a single word about opposing to another project.
watch
Not
the
even a
TV.
word. I didn't say anything about opposing a project or not. I said Dan and I were basically, okay, so let me finish. Okay, so basically, it was a question about having or not a building over there in the Blackmount track or so. And it was created as such, they're saying, you either build over there or you get nothing. Nothing, not, and the town said, no, forget about getting anything, we want nothing. After the referendum, then we had meetings over here. And there were a lot of actions trying not to do anything about this. First of all, they say, we don't have to do anything. That was a closed meeting and stuff like that, nothing we have to do. Even that should have been discussed in an open meeting. Let's not do anything. Well, after we got back in the meeting, we decided, yeah, we're gonna send a letter and we're gonna say we do not support that. We did the first thing. And they said, oh, well, that's good enough, let's not do anything. A week after, there was a lot of pressure from the town. And then their whole council reunited and said, no, something that's not right. What we really should do is make sure that we stop the project. And as such, the entire council voted basically to stop the project and stop the application so that building will never be built. So that was the second. Now the last part is that, okay, it does make no difference. But if that makes no difference, why don't we basically finish the action and take out the permission to build if the Tenafly Nature Center decided not to build and they abide by the referendum, which they wrote a letter to? There is nothing to stop basically us to say, yes, you abide by it, you decided not to build, so we withdraw the permission for you to build on that track. You say that, sure, you can do that, fine. It's basically the chance to say, yes, you believe in what you promised, or we're going to lie and start finding different reasons not to stop, and maybe there is some chance later on we can do something, or you're going to say, yes, we promised the town, we're going to abide by the results of the referendum, and we're going to keep our word, and we're going to basically say, yes, that project cannot be built, and we withdraw the approval for that project to be built, so it's done. It's very simple. It's not such a big difficult thing. You say it doesn't matter, let's just do it and finish it up. Make sure that you abide by the results of the referendum. You keep the word that you gave the town, that whoever is going is basically going to happen. And it's very simple if you said it does not matter. Just let's do it.
Max, did we, did we withdraw the application?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so how could this be built with the application withdrawn?
It's immaterial.
No, I asked you a question.
It's not. It's a question of the willing of the council.
Did we? But I'm saying, how could this possibly be
Why
built?
would you oppose with basically stopping that?
Because this is, like you said, this is the third step. The first step is we sent a letter withdrawing our support for the project.
Yeah, and what's
we thought
wrong
it was
with that
done
in the
then.
first step?
Then we had the town, the same group came back and said, well, we want you to withdraw the application.
Yeah.
So we withdrew the application. It was supposed to be done then. Now it's another resolution. I'm just asking you a question. And think before you answer it.
Yeah.
Do you think if we pass this meaningless resolution, it's all over then? Do you really think that everybody's
As
going
far as I'm concerned,
No, I'm not
gonna
asking.
ask you. You asked the
It's
question.
more than you.
Yeah, but you asked
You're a
the
big
question.
part of the group, but it's more than
You asked the
you.
question. Let me answer. As far as I'm concerned, there would be no support from anybody in this council, I believe, after we pass this resolution to do anything about the referendum method. This will basically put an end to any type of actions about the
I'm
referendum.
not asking you about actions from this committee. I'm asking you.
I'm gonna guarantee
if-
you there will be no action, and
How,
the
how
Save
can
the
you, how
Green
can you
Acres,
guarantee that?
the Save the Acres will be able to tell you that there will be no actions from their part. If you want to ask them, go ahead, you've got the answer.
But
You get
but
the
wait a
answer.
second, but you're
Yeah.
just saying, just from, you want to do this just for a political statement or
No.
just as a
The
policy
political
statement?
statement is that-
Because it doesn't seem like if it doesn't accomplish anything, I'm really so.
See,
if it
you-
doesn't accomplish
people
anything,
disagree with you.
I don't understand. Well,
That's your
yeah, but-
opinion.
And you were stating your opinion.
Exactly.
Except that
Exactly.
I'm reading
Everybody
through
has
it.
his own opinion.
Let me.
I'm
I'd
reading
like
through
to
it, giving you my
you
opinion
can't
from
speak.
looking
I'm
at
sorry.
it.
Nadia, you had your hand up.
Okay, I mean, unlike the bid, I think this can be resolved quite simply.
Yeah.
Mr. Jacobs wrote us a very thoughtful letter. He referenced rule number 5 of the Lost Book Preserve rules, and everything is attached here where, you know, there isn't any hunting, there isn't any trapping. The land is supposed to stay in its natural state. Then we passed this resolution 13-329. It talks about the nature center and their stewardship. It talks about the property we own, the 380 acres, the Blankman tract, and the various rules through the years. And then when we get to the whereas, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th one, or even the 5th one, talks about item number 5 of the Lost Book Preserve rules, that we are changing those rules now, because we did say, okay, we're gonna designate 2 acres to build this property. We withdrew the application, yes. We had a referendum, yes. I agree to all those things. But this resolution, in my mind, was strictly passed so that the Lost Brook Preserve rules could be changed to allow for the building of this property. Now that we agree, we can't bound a future council, but this council has agreed not to allow any building there. Why can't we just rescind this and end it? Or it seems like our intentions are conflicting, because we have taken all the steps other than rescinding this. So explain to me.
I'll explain to you why your reading of it is incorrect. It's, if you look at that 7th whereas, it specifically says, with respect to the change of the rules, it makes reference specifically to the plans that were submitted to the
Yes.
mayor and council and presented at the April 23rd, 2013.
Exactly.
All right. Those plans, I think we can all agree, those
Yes.
plans are not going forward? Okay? So the only changes with respect to the Education Discovery Center as defined here, all right, in the 7th whereas. Okay, so now if you go down to where, not the whereases, but the actual resolution itself, okay? It says that, and I'm
Show me-
gonna
tell me
get the
where,
part
the
where it
exact.
says, right, I'm gonna read you right to it, hold on. The first resolved, be it resolved that the Lost Brook Preserve rules are hereby amended to permit construction of that's the first one,
Where are you reading, please?
right after the now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and
Okay.
council.
First,
right?
be it further resolved.
Yeah,
Okay? Be it further resolved that the Lost Brook Preserve rules are hereby amended to permit construction of the Education and Discovery Center. Capital E, capital D, capital C, which is defined in the whereas, in that 7th whereas. To permit that construction, subject to the terms and conditions set forth in this resolution. All right? And then it goes on, and the rules and the conditions are that has to be approved, that, you know, that apply to. That project is dead. That Education Discovery Center is dead.
Yes.
The
Agreed.
rules are only changed
Bill,
for that.
is there any downside to just rescinding or this
But I ask you to
resolution?
change
That's-
the lease.
I'm just
Well, that's
asking.
something that I.
Well, that'll be next.
Well, that's something that
I don't think so.
I would want to discuss in closed session. And that's why we did it in closed session, because there is
Mark, you next.
a remote issue. I think it's a remote issue with respect to us taking that specific action.
What specific action?
Rescinding
Rescinding this
that.
resolution.
we discussed.
But this, none of the whereases get into the lease at all. That's all.
Yeah, the
No,
lease
the
is.
lease-
Excuse me, the whereas
the
is
lease
the
defines,
therefores
the
don't.
lease defines the Education and Discovery Center in the same exact manner as the 7th whereas.
Okay.
So,
But wasn't this solely created to change the Lost Brook Preserve rules to allow the construction in an area that was supposed to be passive?
Only that particular
Your
project
project.
on that particular
Right,
site,
Bill, I think
the 2 acres.
Wasn't the
opposite
lease,
Central-
wasn't the lease created before we passed this resolution?
The lease was created,
When did we change the lease?
September 2012 was or November 2012 was the first lease, but that was subject to approval by Green Acres, it wasn't approved.
Right, but, so in other words,
Because then we had to do this.
but that lease was, the changes to that lease
And
were
there was-
negotiated in 2012. This resolution's from 2013.
Yeah,
So
but this is
the
what
lease
happened.
wasn't dependent on this resolution.
This is what happened. There was the lease was subject to, the lease was never signed in 2012 because it was subject to approval, it was approved, subject to getting the approval of Green Acres. Green Acres did not approve the lease for a number of reasons. They needed a number of changes, including a change to the term and with respect to renewal of the lease. Those are all things that had to be changed. So a new lease that was approved by Green Acres with the changes that the DAG needed came into effect, I think, in September of 2013.
But we did
somewhere
not
around there.
write another list, it was the same list.
No, it was changed.
It was changed. It had to be changed. But
There are a bunch of
So let me
changes.
finish my question.
Please do.
Because I completely respect everything you just went through, but the public doesn't read any of this. They only understand what they understand and and the larger concept behind it, because they don't read the details here. So my question to you is what is the harm if
Well,
we-
he said it in closed session, we'll discuss it.
regarding the lease, but what is the harm beyond the lease, if there is any, of rescinding this?
Oh, no.
So,
So,
So we have the conversation
I
in
can-
closed
no,
session.
But there's an issue
No,
that
no,
relates to the
Oh,
lease.
okay, so I'm gonna recommend that we have that lease discussion in closed session, and then
I think that we
We
should
decide what
discuss
to do
after
after.
that at the next work session. After we have that one, and we have a work session discussion over here.
we'll put it on the next work session, absolutely.
so we're gonna discuss it tonight in closed? Can we add this to the agenda for tonight in
could,
closed?
sure.
Yeah.
Because it's part of this, it's part of the agenda already.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Can we have a
When is
break
the
now?
next work session?
A break?
No, it's okay.
You want a break?
No, it's
2-minute
okay.
break? You want a break, yes or no? The rest of it should
Yeah,
be
we're
rather
discussing the work
mundane, I
sessions,
think.
not being
Okay,
in
let's-
closed
All right, we're gonna have
session
a
tonight.
Two-
we'll have a 2-minute break,
Have it in a second.
Understand.
which means, 5 minutes.
Let's just refresh.
Okay.
Chair.
Let's see if we can move this agenda along. 1B is, okay, the proposal from Greg Fahrenbach, Government Management Advisors for the CFO search.
Yes.
Jewel, please.
Okay, yes. As you know, unfortunately, we're going to be losing Gene at the end of June. And in our last discussion where he was present, basically I was authorized to reach out to the firm of Government Management Advisors to solicit a proposal under the non-fair and open approach to contracting. We received that proposal as well as all of the required DCA paperwork for a not to exceed figure of $6,100, and I'm recommending that we accept the full service proposal. I realized that some of the council people had not necessarily participated in a recruitment done by this particular firm. So what I just handed out for you was literally just an example, a sample of what the schedule looks like, as it is, basically, did you get one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Organized and supervised by this firm. It's extremely detailed, and I think those who have participated in Greg Fahrenbach's previous recruitments know that he provides all of the materials, all of the packages that are required for
Full service.
full service. It's full service.
And he, not only is he a really remarkable person with a skill set that is amazing, but he has contacts throughout the state. And if there's people out there that would possibly be serve us well, he wouldn't hesitate to reach out to them even if they don't apply. So I think this is a break that he's willing, a break for us, a good thing for us that he's willing to work with us. So,
I have the funds available.
any question or comment on this?
Professional service
I-
fund.
I fully agree with what Peter just said. Gregory is an amazing person. He is so thorough, so efficient, and he really does have the networking capabilities.
Is
Where's it?
831 okay with you, Drew?
Well, keep in mind, this is just an example. So basically, this is what it looks like over a 2.5 month time frame. And it's just coincidental that it's the exact same time frame in which we're working now. And by 2.5 months, we would be counting from the public meeting at which we would award the contract on the 14th. So this gives you a very good example of what happens during that time frame. And from 2.5 months is roughly the time frame.
So that was basically my question. Your expectation is to fill this role by August 31st?
No,
No,
No, that's.
by June
by June
14th.
14th.
Oh.
This is
just
from
an
a
example.
prior,
okay, I was
right.
confused. I'm glad I asked it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
The main thing I wanted you to see were the
Okay.
work elements and the milestones and basically how he lays it out and how detailed it is.
But August 31st is my birthday month, so.
Oh, that would be a nice birthday present.
I'm registered, so if
Right.
you want to.
Okay.
Our drop dead date, if you will, is June 30th. And we would hope to actually maybe even complete it slightly before that
And he
date.
thinks June 30th is June 14th or so is reasonable? He can do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next is E, the declaratory judgment resolution. I think we discussed this the last time. This is what's needed to go forward to assure us that we are safe from a COA perspective. Any questions?
So, this did talk about us revising our current plan, correct?
Yeah.
So the planning board with the two professionals benching would revise the plan, and then the plan comes here for us to.
Correct, for you to review and approve. And you know.
This is not the COA subcommittee that's doing it, the planning board's doing
The
this.
planning board will do it.
The planning board will do it.
Is there any more cost of a committee?
Any what?
Is there any more cost of committee?
A COA subcommittee? Yeah, there is a COA subcommittee.
Is there?
There is a
Yeah.
COA subcommittee, yes, but we don't have any meetings scheduled at this point.
Okay.
Right, and Joe Burgess is doing that report that has to get done, that you just
Right.
asked about for September, does that to be filed?
Fine with July.
Well, July 8th
this
is
is
the
the
declaratory judgment is to be
right.
filed no
Right, that's
later than
correct.
July 8th.
And then
So
November-
that's
Plan
pretty
November,
quickly.
November 8th?
And the plan has to be done by November 8th.
Right, and we're on schedule to do that. Okay,
Bless you.
next is ITN North Jersey. Just, I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to go to their website to look at it. This is a nonprofit. It's a franchise in that they have, chapters in other areas of the country. This would be the second chapter in northern New Jersey. That they've started in Wyckoff. However, there's some issues here. First of all, their plan is as follows. They go out and get commitments from volunteer drivers. Okay, the drivers use their own car. They can be reimbursed for gasoline, and they act almost as a taxi service. Now, the taxi service, the advantage of this service is theoretically they operate 24/7. So anytime a senior would need transportation for any reason, it would be made available to them. The downside is, in order to be a client, you pay an annual membership of $90, which, according to Julie at the senior center, people might be reluctant to do. And the
Per
cost
person, right?
the cost per mile is a little higher than, there's another company called Easy Ride, Easy Ride, Easy Ride, and they're not 24/7 though.
No.
What this company is looking to do is have some assistance from the borough in recruiting volunteers. What that assistance is, I'm not exactly confident that I could describe. I know they would like to, piggyback on our newsletter. Although this service might be helpful to some residents, some seniors, the question becomes, exactly how many would take advantage of it, being that it's costly compared to Easy Ride.
What's the
which is-
benefit over the regular taxi service?
I'm sorry?
The benefit of this over the regular
Calling a cab.
taxi that we have in town? What's the benefit of this as opposed to calling a cab?
I believe it's cheaper than a cab. Well, no, it's cheaper than a cab, and also if you go to a doctor's office, or with a cab, the cab doesn't, as a rule, won't wait for you. These people will wait for you unless you're gonna be there for more than an hour or so, then they will come back for you. Another issue is, will they be able to find enough volunteers? If somebody volunteers, the insurance issue is the insurance is their own, with this company picking up anything beyond your insurance. So, I'm not sure.
How does it work? The insurance, I would like to volunteer, period, to help the senior center if they need any, at midnight or something, transportation, period. I don't need to go through, I mean, can we do something ourselves that the senior center puts together a list of people that will be willing to take, if somebody has a problem to go to the doctor, I'll volunteer anytime.
Well, the question, first of all, there's a question of liability.
That's the question, yeah.
This company does have liability.
Gets right back to this, the jitney bus for the senior center.
Yeah.
And
Can
seniors
we
again.
need to have that discussion again as well, because I don't know that the council knows, along these lines, that with the grant, Bergenfield's not going through with the grant. So,
Bus isn't big enough for them.
so now that we need to, I don't know when we're gonna discuss that, but,
As far as that went, Bergenfield as a county, because the center's in Bergenfield, as a county, they don't want that bus because it's too small for the Bergenfield facility. It won't hold all of them. They'll have to do two. They'll have to go back and forth.
what size bus was it? I know this is getting slightly off topic, but it's
25
transportation.
person.
25.
It's the right size for Tenafly, basically, but they
Yeah.
have well over 50 members. We don't as a town qualify for that grant anyway alone because we don't partake in any county services. We're not part of their county. We're not part of the county plan or backbone off. We don't backbone off their major routes or whatever. We don't have. We're not part of their system basically.
Okay.
I explored the idea with the Riverside Co-op mayor, Peeler. His senior van is in poor shape. So at his next Riverside meeting in April 14,
Probably 18.
something like that.
This is the mayor of Gloucester?
No, mayor of Northvale.
Northvale? Okay.
Ed Peeler. He will be exploring that idea with other towns as well. So he'll be bringing that up as a Riverside.
We'll be present.
Yeah,
Okay,
as
so,
a Riverside idea.
certainly, it might behoove us to co-op with them if they're willing to do that.
And what he told me was instead of the Riverside Co-op mostly does just asphalt,
Yeah.
and he wants to expand it to things like this eventually. So it was a preliminary discussion. I caught him off guard. He checked the condition of his van. I haven't spoken to him since because I was away. But yeah, that's
Well,
where.
hopefully I'll see him at a mayor's function and I'll talk to him as well.
Yeah,
So
I work in the
maybe
same
get
building
heads
as him.
up sooner rather than later.
person band course?
No.
The question is, there has to be handicap accessible.
No, yeah,
I understand.
Yeah,
Well,
It's
that's a
just-
given.
If anybody has any sense of what one of those vehicles would
No,
Well, I
and-
went after
and
the
the real-
grant first because it's
and the-
fairly expensive.
The issue doesn't end if you get the van,
No, I
then
understand.
it's the
Driver.
support
Just the
staff, the
beginning.
driver,
Driver
how,
maintenance. This grant was
The
pretty
real bonus
encompassing.
was to share it with somebody, but,
Of course.
here we
The
are,
bonus was the
we're in
grant.
the
It
same
paid for
spot
so much.
again, being,
okay.
The
no
grant was the
plans.
best thing.
I don't see any harm with advertising this. We don't have to pay, the individual who uses it pays, but they have to be somebody who
Well, what-
visits doctors or needs a cab quite
What
regularly.
I'd like to do is invite the man to the next work session and tell him he can give us a 5-minute presentation and then you guys could ask questions. And,
Seems better.
all right, Lucette, we'll put him down and I'll make,
And
For
maybe we
May?
can explore
Huh?
For the
something.
May work session, because the 28th is a combined meeting and we
all right,
have the
the
budget.
May work session.
Yeah, maybe we also can look at
Question.
something inside, is this liability insurance, if there are gonna be people in Tenafly that are willing to volunteer, if somebody wants to go to a doctor or something, can we have like a town insurance for that type of, if somebody is volunteering to take somebody to a doctor or so just to have it covered?
Well, I don't know, we'd have to sit down with Carol Byrne and
Yeah,
discuss
because we're
that.
members of the JIF.
Yeah,
We
so
have to
would
see
you,
that.
you know, because I'm
Let's
very much
let's meet with ITN and see what their plan is. That's a good idea, Max, but there's a lot involved in it.
Yeah.
It's not a very
The
simple thing.
logistics.
Let's see what ITN has to say. Let's find out exactly what their relationship would be with the borough, if any, and then we need to explore, does that create any additional liability for us before we go ahead and give them any
Well,
permission?
they would like us to be what's called an affiliate.
Right.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of kids in Tenafly, if they give them incentive or so, it's like
Well, I know ITN requires 3 years of driving experience before you can
let's
be a
say
volunteer.
ITN is with money and a lot of stuff. Many senior citizens cannot even afford to get a $50 ride because it's going to be at least $50 to go back and forth. So I think we can explore. We have so many volunteers in the EMS. They're all kids that want to do good and they want to be doctors and stuff like that. And we can talk to them about, maybe volunteering if we can put together some sort of a insurance type thing that we're going to cover them. Maybe, I'm sure that everybody will be kind of willing to do that as a good gesture, not for money. I'm trying to, senior citizens.
Very hopeful.
Yeah, I'm absolutely hopeful of that.
I'm pleased that we're able to get 2 volunteers to tape. Thanks.
That's right.
Dan, did you want to add anything?
There's no issue with them being, they are a nonprofit with charging people and us getting involved.
No, it's a nonprofit group. They're just covering.
Their fees.
Well,
Their costs.
I did ask the gentleman that was making the presentation, are you a paid employee? And he said yes. There's actually would be 2 paid employees if they ever start taking in some money. So nonprofit is kind of, if the guy's running it, who knows what they're. But he told me they've been in Wyckoff for a few months, and it's a very slow process right now. I think he said they either have only 2 volunteers or 2 clients. So I said to him, well, what happens if somebody calls and needs a ride at 3 a.m. and you can't get a volunteer? He says, we have to take them. They operate primarily on people giving 24 hours notice. I need a trip to the doctor tomorrow at 3. Which makes a lot of sense. Okay, 1G is
Basically,
Jewel?
yes, item G is 3 implementation letters for Mazer to proceed with, first, the UST or underground storage tank closure project on the DPW building. Essentially, what we're looking to do is to implement this line that's in the approved budget, the $18,000 for the DPW. We had hoped to start a little sooner. They have been laying literally the groundwork needed, but we needed to wait until the financing was approved, which has been done. So since the ordinance for the project has been approved, they're basically just seeking to access this $18,000 line item.
Can I just backtrack just a second
Sure.
with that?
Mark yours.
I know we had this discussion about the underground oil tanks and they were removed, but the paperwork wasn't filed.
Correct.
Do we, you might have said this already, do we know the company that initially did that work, or could not find any of that
We
paperwork?
couldn't find any paperwork, which was very interesting.
So we can't go back to them and we have no idea what we paid.
Right, and it was
That's
a
why we're
long
starting
time
from
ago.
scratch again.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did anybody reach out to David Halls to see if he had any records? Because he was engineer doing
No,
this.
no, that was already, that was done.
So he
that
doesn't
was
have any
done,
records.
yeah.
And not that he would. I thought maybe we'd get lucky.
Nothing up in the attic, was that, huh?
Probably went up in smoke.
It's a fire.
So,
When in doubt,
Mark, please, I'm sorry.
so Jewel, so basically, they're gonna go in, do soil testing, they're gonna bore holes, do testing of the soil where they believe the tanks were.
Correct. Well, they know exactly where they were
How do we know that?
because of the site plan.
We'll
Okay.
plot it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they'll do the borings and hopefully everything
Fill
will
out the
be,
paperwork.
Correct.
right. Then they'll recreate the paperwork and we're good to go.
Right. Their preliminary look, they don't foresee anything major as an issue with the site.
I have to say something. I had a building and we had a tank removed, and all the documents had to be filed with the DEP in Trenton.
It wasn't done.
It wasn't that.
So we never got a case number.
Correct.
So we removed the oil tanks and never dealt with the state. We just did it of our own volition.
No, you can't, you have to have a certified agent that is.
No, I understand that,
Licensed.
license, yes, I know, and
Next
we
things
can't
were
find
done
any
differently in
paperwork on
those
it.
days.
In 1986,
Here,
we
I'm
took a
talking
backhoe,
about-
dug it out. and-
Yeah,
Right.
Problem solved.
Okay,
okay.
let's go to the administrator's report.
Under
Wait,
the
there was something else under that one, wasn't there a Riverside Road
Oh.
resurfacing? It was a multi-item,
yeah.
it was a
Yes,
multi-item.
multi-item, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the other is implementing the road resurfacing project that we bid through the Riverside Co-op.
This here is just for engineering fees.
Correct. This is, well, the scope of work is laid out.
Right.
Data collection, it goes everything through data collection through construction management.
Would you remind Andy to remind Public Service that they owe us a resurfacing of West Clinton Avenue where they dug up last
Now that the temperatures
fall,
are
now that the
better.
temperature. They promised they'd come back and resurface half of the road. It's about a half of a mile long and it's a mess.
We're gonna do a road resurfacing one we always do in August, around that.
I'm sorry?
July, August.
July, August, so let me
Right.
just ask one question, since we've waited forever to have Tenafly Road finally repaved.
Section
to the
4.
end, section four. We've communicated with United Way that they'll have all their underground work done by that time and they will not break the street, because I certainly, after all this time, we have to really communicate with United Way and make sure they're not doing underground work and breaking the street again. That's a major project there.
Well, yeah, first we need to find out when the project is gonna be done and then we give United Way a deadline.
But it's still worthwhile to
Yeah,
just
yeah.
make sure.
Yeah, sooner rather than later for
Yeah.
them.
So
It's not gonna be a
Thank you.
small hole.
Around it, yeah.
So we'll make sure that that gets done. Okay, so you.
And any other new two-family
Great
homes that
West
are
Clinton.
going up that road.
Yeah, that's, well, these streets are a mess. You
Well,
see 'em.
let me ask a strange question. I know we give homeowners or residents on along the street notice that they're gonna have work done. Would it be a good idea maybe to reach out to everybody along that stretch to say, hey, it's been a long time, we're repaving this. If you're thinking of doing anything, like a new gas line for a generator, you need to do it now? Is that a thought?
Just send a line to the letter that already goes out, or the notice that already goes out.
You know,
Yeah.
so the notice that already goes out.
Well,
It's
but
been
it
so
doesn't go,
long
it doesn't
in
go out
coming.
with, but it doesn't go out with a lot of notice. You know,
It
if
doesn't
they
go
give,
out with, yeah,
they
it
give you
goes
a
out-
30-day notice,
You're
it's
really
hard to
lucky.
get your generator built in that amount of time.
Can't get the building permit that quick. Separate problem.
Well, one of the things, and I just want to remind you that one of the things that we did discuss as well is, right now, Maze is under the impression that we do not have a problem with removing those brick pavers.
Where are the brick pavers?
On
Right
Tenafly
by-
Road.
On the
Oh, yeah, the
crosswalks.
crosswalks, yeah.
They're a nightmare.
disaster.
The DPW is continually redoing those.
Yeah.
Right, so we don't have to make, we
No.
don't have to make that a
We don't have
separate
to
project.
replace those. Once they're out, they're out.
See, and that was a result of the Business Development
Development
Committee a long time ago when they thought pavers would be a great idea, but try and keep them clean
Yeah.
on the sidewalks. It's a
It's
nightmare.
hard. Even in communities where they've repainted them, they don't stay painted.
You know, you really have to almost power wash them on a regular
Yeah.
basis. But you
They're
have
just
to do
for
it very
decorative
carefully
inserts.
or you lose the color. Okay.
We've already addressed the recruitment
Mm-hmm.
proposal. County has a mitigation plan. I think we were all very surprised when we got a letter from FEMA, basically advising us that the grant that they had already approved for us could be in danger if the county did not finalize its hazard mitigation plan. So we've been in contact with the county. In fact, we've done more than be in contact with the county. As we've laid out here, we've actually basically already complied with what is required. We have documentation from the county which verifies that we submitted our documentation to them, and I've also received correspondence from the county assuring us that they will be getting their information into FEMA before April 30th, and of course, we'll check with them.
So you have a
Weekly.
plan here, but there's some incredibly, well, maybe not incredibly expensive things, but as long as you have a plan in place, it's okay with FEMA with no dates about when we might do any of that work?
There's actually, each one of those sentences is an actual page.
Okay.
So there is a page that, it doesn't have to give specific timeframes, but it does have
Just
to,
recognize.
just
that These are
recognize.
problem areas.
Correct.
And it gives us time to work on.
Right. And then some of the things we can actually say, I mean, we do have an ongoing, tree mitigation and hazard program. So some things we are doing. Apparently, there were 23 communities whose only or single response was generators. And somehow along the way, even though they approved the generators, they decided that they needed a little bit more in terms of mitigation actions. So, as I said, the county is in the process of putting together all of this information.
Okay.
Alrighty. The joint use meeting that was scheduled for April 13th has now been moved to April 27th. With regard to the correspondence that we previously sent to Cresskill asking for an opportunity to sit with them and discuss possible shared services for the swim clubs, we did receive a response from Mayor Romeo. Basically, what was being proposed, though, was not a sit-down meeting with himself, but basically advising the council of Tenafly that if we're interested, we can attend their regularly scheduled pool commission meeting.
So I think we should do that.
Well, the question becomes, are our swim clubs gonna be represented at this meeting? Because the Cresskill Swim Club is owned by the borough. Ours is not.
Right.
So who is representing Tenafly? And how?
So I think members of this body should go to see, right, the whole goal is to see if there's an opportunity to share any services, and we really don't have an agenda in terms of that affects our pools right now.
Well, we don't provide any services for our pool. If we're going to talk about shared services, it would seem to me that we might want to have representatives of our, how can we represent pools that we don't own, that we don't operate?
I mean, I guess that's a good point. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable if they want to attend, 1 or 2 members from each of the pools to talk. Gets it all out in the open.
Yeah, but we're the one that brought the issue forward.
Right.
I don't think they have any.
Right, if they choose not to come, that's okay. We can extend the invitation.
I think at the time that we sent the letter to Cresskill, we were still hopeful that we would have met with the swim clubs.
But you know something, the
didn't-
swim clubs came to the meeting on the 12th.
Right.
We were not here, but Tennekill, without answering or anything, they came to the meeting and they were looking for us.
So let's invite the swim clubs to come, and they can choose to come or not.
Exactly, I mean, they were, I think we should talk to them first.
That's
We
fine.
should invite them again here,
There's no
talk to
time.
them.
This meeting's April 13th at 7:30.
Yeah, it was just coincidental that
They meet one
Right.
the other meeting was
Right.
canceled.
So let's just issue an invitation to the swim clubs to join us, and if they choose to come, they come.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Absolutely.
Also, I would tell you, Nadia and Marcus seem to be the most interested in this, that the Alpine Swim Club, which is owned by the Borough of Alpine, might be interested if we're talking about any kind of shared services, and I really don't know where this is, where you
Where it's
intend to
going.
take this.
Right.
You might want to include them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
Another quick update, the Municipal Volunteer Property Tax Reduction Act, that was brought up in a general announcement, I think Councilman Barzalato. So there actually are 2 bills related to that. It's actually the same bill, but one with a Senate sponsor and one with an Assembly sponsor. I provided a copy
Only
of
applies
it.
to seniors though.
I think it can apply to others, but the thing that they do make clear is that we would be subject to a very specific set of rules.
Lisette, could you do me a favor? Could you possibly forward, at least to me, I don't know if anybody else is interested, a copy of those bills? If they're,
It was part of the attachment.
It's
So
here.
you might not have seen it, maybe.
The Senate one is.
Yeah, it says you have to be 60 years old to get the benefit.
well, I don't think that's what you had in mind, is it, Tony?
No. But I would
Can
tell
you
you,
join the fire department at 60?
the state of New Jersey is exploring the tax situation for firefighters, or for EMS as well.
But Tony, if it's 16 over, everybody in the fire department qualifies. So it's not gonna hurt you.
You're right.
No, Tony doesn't
Well, no,
qualify.
the reason.
Not Tony, the other guy.
The reason I'm asking is this something we might want to reach out to Gordon and Valerie and Loretta and ask for their support? Or is this a bill that we want to support?
I could reach out to Logano's office, he's got the assembly.
Have you, Jewel, have you noticed whether the league is in support or opposition to this bill?
They're in
It's
opposition.
$1,000, yeah.
Well, I put a lot of credence behind what the league suggests. Do you remember what you have right in front of you?
Oh,
What does
yeah.
it say?
Well-intended legislation, but will have a significant impact on municipal revenue.
They're expecting hundreds of seniors to volunteer their time, thereby reducing property taxes.
Well, this is like everything else. If you give somebody a break, the rest of us pay for it.
So does this mean there isn't, Tony asked the question, there isn't anything on the books that allows us to do
That's
it, or
correct.
barred,
There's nothing at this time.
but we're barred from doing it?
Why?
No, I'm asking, we're barred from doing it? To
Yes.
credit anybody on the tax?
Right.
Why are we barred, I'm sorry?
Because
Statutorily.
statutorily, you have to, there's.
There has to be an
has to be
enabling
equal- right.
legislation.
Equal.
Everybody has to be taxed equally unless specifically
If-
To
authorized
prevent us
by
from playing
statute.
favorites with taxes.
Most of what we do
That's what it
follows
comes down to.
or
So
mimics
giving
state
a break.
legislation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
state
Max, for
statutes.
example, where sewer charges is concerned, there are some potential exemptions, and we as a board, as a governing body, had the authority, and we did, to rescind those exemptions from many of the nonprofits that were getting it. So now we collect sewer charges from the JCC and the churches that we never used to collect from. And it's an uncomfortable situation because, they're all cash strapped as well.
The transportation program was just notification that we were not awarded a grant. Previously mentioned Dumont's exploration about utilizing the Tenafly Municipal
Can we
Court.
back up one second,
Sure.
Joe? Back to the East Clinton bicycle lanes, what would we envision the bicycle lane as? Would it be a yellow line indicating a particular area? of
They would have improved the shoulders and
So there would be
created a
construction.
specific bike lane. And by the way, Saturday morning coming down East Clinton, there was a ambulance, a bike rider was being taken away.
It's very
Hit by a
frequent,
car?
unfortunate.
I don't think so. I think it was a one bike accident, but who knows what the cause of it was? I didn't see a car there. It was, I think if you noticed, it was on our activity report. that we
Yeah, sort of.
Dumont, at the present time, they're quiet about whether or not they want to continue to pursue, so we're basically just waiting to hear if it's something that they still want to look into.
Well, I would suggest to the council that this is a very good example of potential shared services, where, we would need to find out what it would cost us to do this, and as long as we recoup it and maybe make a few dollars, and at the same time, save Dumont some money, there are numerous towns throughout the state that share courts, and that's one of the easiest things to do.
I think the issue for Dumont was they wanted to utilize their staff to secure our building, and the police department said that was not acceptable.
So their police would be here instead of ours?
Yes. What the police did offer was to just have one officer on site to supervise, as opposed to having our normal contingent of officers. But as we said, we haven't heard anything back from them.
Not even,
So they just want to use our space. They want to rent the space and come in with their employees and run their court system here.
that's okay.
No, but that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But it's not a shared services where we would handle all of their traffic stuff with our judge and our administrator.
Correct. They wanted to, they wanted
Because
to
if we-
operate Dumont Court.
Because if
Here.
we do that, if that was a discussion, then we lose the power to appoint a judge.
Why is that?
When you share court systems, the judge then is appointed by Superior Court?
Yeah, right, it's,
Yeah, so that's, you
You're
have to, when two municipalities decide to share a
your
court
judge,
system,
right.
then we lose the power to appoint the judge. It's
Right.
the Superior Court that appoints?
You
Somebody
know,
else appoints it beyond us.
I just read that
Yeah.
about 2 weeks
You
ago,
didn't know that?
and I didn't know it.
But we
Yes.
don't, we don't wanna share the court
Yeah, you
system.
sign
No,
a
that's what I'm
judge?
just
wanna rent
saying,
space
what
from
the
us.
space
County?
is.
You
What?
sign a judge in the county.
I think that's who appoints.
No,
But no,
I
they
would
were
hate
not
to-
proposing a shared
Yes,
court.
I'm just,
No, no.
that's what I'm just,
That's
I want you to clarify that.
Yeah.
Sign it.
And then,
Could
finally,
you,
go
I'm sorry,
ahead.
could you
Yeah.
reach out to John Perkins and ask him if there's any interest in just
I'll tell you the
renting the
reason
space?
why I was looking at that, but.
Okay.
I will reach out to John. We will going through the court administrators.
Well, that could be part of the problem, you know, if John may see a stronger need for it than the court administrator.
And then finally, we had really, it was just an informal inquiry from a representative of Cresskill regarding a parcel of land that is occupied by our recycling center. And basically, the understanding that they had about the ownership of the property was not correct.
So did
Well, I would tell you this because I had gotten an inquiry, this has got to go back maybe three or 4 years. There is a small pocket right at the end of Sunrise, the Sunrise complex, that belongs to Tenafly, but it's almost landlocked. And it's beyond our, what do you call that area where they put all the leaves?
The mulch.
mulch
It's
area.
beyond the mulch area. It's such a small area, and it's like a dog leg that we don't use it for anything.
Well, we do use it. The misunderstanding was that they thought Cresskill owned it. Cresskill doesn't
No.
own
You
it.
talked to somebody else because the people that I spoke to wanted to buy it, wanted us to sell it to them.
On the other side of the mulch pile,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because we have Crestgill Commons property goes up to, but there's a fence there now.
Right.
Yes, yes. If
I
you drive
yeah.
along the railroad tracks on the west side, down Sunrise, all the way to the very end of the parking lot, there's a small fenced-in area that you can. It's just like not a forest, but it's like a little meadow.
Well, one of the things that we do is that we put trees there to acclimate them
Right.
before we plant them.
Okay.
So it's not as though
We don't use it?
It's
not that we
That's
don't
why
use it.
trying to make the
Right,
area
but if
pretty.
they're really interested in doing something, then they should put it in writing so that we all have the same understanding of what
Did we
they're looking
communicate back
for.
to them that,
No, because I didn't even know who.
okay.
If you like,
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow we'll take a ride over there. Just to
No, I'm familiar with it.
Oh, you've seen it? Okay.
I'm not sure what they would do with it.
I'm not sure what they would do with it either. I never got an answer to why do you really want it? I mean, I know it doesn't serve us any purpose.
Right. Well, we do use it.
I guess we're talking about the same
It's,
property.
it's
but
kind of like our internal tree farm.
we're in competition with the Hallworth tree.
No,
farm?
it's not on the same level. And then I think that was basically it. That was it.
Okay, under correspondence, perfunctory, the first letter is the Little League Parade. Everybody here at this table is invited if you care to march with the kids. It's a lot of fun. I don't advise you standing behind home plate when I throw out the first ball, though. It's been a rough year. The second letter we covered, and the third letter is a very nice letter from Michael Bruno, who's the son of our former police chief, who is now principal at the Mount Carmel School. And I know that when I got this letter, I did send a note over to Chief Chamberlain asking him to thank and congratulate Officers Smarodakis and Wabaki for their fine work and how well it reflects on not only Tenafly in general, but his department. And very nice job. Okay, for the good of the order, does anybody have anything before we go into closed session?
Yes, I just want to, at one time we were talking about planting trees, and then we have a big fund. I don't know, did we do anything, I'd like somebody from DPW to come and tell
Well,
us about.
I can answer you that we did have a campaign where people were asked if they wanted trees to be planted, to send letters over to DPW. Bob Culvert is just waiting for the trees to come in. Due to the weather, they're a little behind. So we are going to be planting approximately 100 trees throughout the town. If we run out of people volunteering, we'll put them on public space. Also have made overtures to the elementary schools asking the kids to write a letter asking for a tree, and we're going to give, regardless of how many letters we get, we'll give at least one tree to every elementary school, based on where their buildings and grounds people want the trees.
Okay.
So we are gonna plant a significant number of trees this year.
Right, just wanted, we're also gonna put another notice in our May newsletter about contacting DPW for trees. And we're also gonna have a small kickoff ceremony on Arbor Day
That would be nice.
to kick off the
Sorry,
tree
you wanna-
planting
That's
season.
gonna happen over at the West Development Train Tracks, Dean?
Have you confirmed, yeah, Engel,
I'm sorry?
the Arbor Day, the planting the cherry trees?
No, I have not.
It's,
With-
I believe it's on Engle Street with Bob Culver.
No, it's,
Yeah.
first I heard of it. Nadia, you had your hand up?
I know
I'll get out the
before,
information to you.
Bob
Please.
Patel left, or maybe it was last year or the year before, he started the cherry tree replacement project along Piermont and Dean, which was a continuous line of cherry trees. But I don't know that, I know a lot of trees were plotted out. I think an outside company came and plotted them out. There are a few that look like they've died, and there are spots where they haven't finished planting, so I don't know whether
Would you
Bob
check
was
with
aware
Bob?
about that.
And find out.
I think Bob's gonna do that during Arbor.
I believe so
I think,
as
yeah, I
well,
think
but,
that's
but
part
we
of his
can
plan.
confirm that.
Because
Yeah.
it does, you know, when
If the
spring
ones that are dead,
comes,
we
if it ever
should-
comes, those trees just look fantastic
Yeah.
in bloom along
Absolutely.
that whole drive.
Yeah. And I want to just add something. On Magnolia, where I live, recently the DPW cut 2 large trees, and probably they were sick or something,
They
because
were.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Can we replant those trees over there?
Absolutely. Shoot Jewel an email with the address if you can.
Yeah. Okay. They're on here.
Dan and then Tony and then Mark.
On top of that, planting, I mentioned the library garden happening with the Eagle Scout. Is that good to go? What's the protocol for that?
I really haven't heard anything more about that.
I haven't either.
Are they waiting for us to approve the site or whatever?
Who's
the
who's
protocol.
they?
The Eagle Scout, the library.
Well, what they need to do is send a letter to us
I
with this. I don't think we've seen a specific plan.
No, we haven't.
Oh,
He
it's this
just said
specific plan?
general, how would we feel about it, he gave us a site. But we need a letter
Okay.
basically telling us who's going to do it, what they're gonna do, and where they're gonna do it.
Alright.
And we'll just, okay, Tony and then Mark?
This past Friday and Saturday, I've started the process of evaluating the municipal center, meaning the mechanics room, as well as the senior center for the shelter, because I'm going to prepare a report to give to everybody. So I was over there taking photos, taking measurements, etc. The point of this is not so much from that side, but I was at the senior center. The exterior of the senior center is beyond deplorable. We in the borough of Tenafly should be ashamed of ourselves. The siding is falling off of the building, especially up at the ridge. The side on the facing the CVS is I don't even know what to say. I was embarrassed to be there. I was trying to hide when people were coming around the corner so they wouldn't see me. That's how bad it is.
Well, they
I
complain,
want
I
us-
tell them to see you.
I really want us to start looking at locations to start this process. I know it's gonna be a time frame of building a new senior center, because what they have there is, it's embarrassing.
I agree,
I'm
and I
sorry,
think,
it's
you
just-
know,
it shouldn't be.
we need to finish up with the DPW.
Right, no,
And
I
then
do,
as far as
I
I'm
agree, but we
concerned,
can-
then as far as I'm concerned, that's the next and maybe
Well, we
last
should start-
project that we have to deal with for a while.
Well, we,
But maybe in the meantime, we can get, we talked about that hiring that person that, I'll call it a utility person, for a lack of a better name, right? I mean, that would be a great person to go over there and fix
Well,
things
we-
up on the outside of the building.
well, keep in mind, number one, we just redid the
The patio.
entire front patio. And we also have a grant, which we haven't implemented yet. We have a grant to do the exterior of the center.
Okay.
So it's
Would-
coming.
Would you see if we
Yeah.
could expedite that?
Yeah.
Or at least have either Andy or
Well,
Bob
what-
Culver
what
look at it
happened-
and make
right.
sure that.
Oh, no, they know. I mean, we just got a that was last year's community development block grant. We just got the signed
Also,
contract.
just general cleanup, I mean, it's really atrocious, I'm sorry,
Okay.
it's embarrassing.
Mark, did you have something?
Okay, so I didn't know you were gonna bring that up, Tony, but this is a good segue into one of the two things I wanted to bring up. So today, I was contacted by an organization called Domus Corporation, which is connected with the Archdiocese of Newark. and they build housing specifically to get COA credits, affordable housing, housing for seniors, for veterans, things of that nature. And they gave me all kinds of information, which I'm going to give to Jewel that she can share with everyone. And the funding is very much like the United Way funding. The borough provides a piece of land, and then they go out and figure where they get the rest of the money from. Loans, grants from the federal government, the state government, etc. They have a very successful track record of about 30 years or so.
Are they on Mulberry Street?
No, North 7th Street. And they built the senior facility in Dumont. There's COA credits over there, that's the closest one to us. So I'll give the information to Jewel. I think we should consider having them come up to do a presentation, because we can look at things like a senior center where we have senior housing. Even though senior housing specifically doesn't automatically get COA grants, if it's connected with affordability, it can, and we can wind up building a new senior center and tie it all in together. If anyone's interested, we should at least see the president, have them go up and do a presentation.
Has everybody been to the Dumont?
And who owns
Where is the
the
Dumont
park,
facility?
the apartments, whatever they build?
By Brewersworth?
Behind Brewers World.
Oh, so I know.
Yeah,
where
on
it is.
Dumont. On Dumont, yeah.
Just like United Way, but it's a different organization.
It's very nice.
So they own it.
Right, they manage it, and they have all kinds of, they can either take leases for the land, they buy, they take
Okay,
donations
it's
for the
interesting,
land.
see if we can have priority on those type of
Okay,
things.
all right, so I'll give that to Jewel afterwards. The second thing I have is about 53 Knickerbocker, regarding open space in the town. And 53 Knickerbocker is probably one of the smallest of the last remaining large parcels of land in town. And so my question is, do we want to have a conversation about potentially buying that and using it for open space somehow? And I'm not,
Well, first of all, what makes you think it's for sale?
well, it has been for sale.
No, I believe it's been sold, because the applicant is gonna, well, I know, I'm sorry, the current owner is
Doing the
doing the
subdivision.
application.
Right, but so this is one of those scenarios where, again, it might not come to anything, but I think it's potentially worth the conversation of would we even interested in buying a piece of property like that?
Okay. Well,
And if we're not interested in it, then we don't. Then we have to know that we're going to have houses built there, and that is what it is.
We did have a meeting with them, and I think the issue, including, were you at that meeting? I know the HPC,
meeting with you.
with the owners of the property.
No, with
Well,
the, with the
Mark's not-
different
I'm not
property.
talking about
He's not talking about
HPC.
Three not-
historic.
I'm not
No,
talking.
that was,
Yeah, 53
That was
Knickerbocker is a
about
6+ acre estate
Right.
that.
that.
Yeah, we
They
did
were,
have a
they were
meeting.
asking
All
about
right.
We did have a
600
meeting.
something million.
Right.
It was.
It,
What's
and
the
it came down,
subdivision they
it came down to dollars and cents, when they compared what they could get,
Yeah, right,
selling it
you
for
were conforming
lots,
lots, right.
right, versus what the borough would be constrained to pay.
Is the subdivision that they came out conforming or?
Yes, it's
no?
conforming.
Totally
10 lots.
conforming.
That's my question, is whether we want to put it on a work session to have a conversation.
I think
So
we
we
should-
would decide closed or open, if we're thinking about
Oh, closed.
closed. So,
We can put it on next week's closed session.
That's fine.
Can we, on our website, can we somehow find out from the Board of Ed what nights are televised for this body?
Well, yeah, there currently is a schedule where I believe they alternate on Mondays through Fridays. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be our meeting at 8 o'clock, and on Tuesday and Thursday, their meeting, and the following week it's reversed, where Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will be their current meeting, and Tuesday and Thursday at
I
ours.
thought we had sent, but I'll resend it.
It was just asked tonight at the firehouse. that's all.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Do you really want them to watch you in action? Not
Yeah, in
anyways?
fact, I thought it was on the website. Oh, okay, you know what, it's probably dropped, but it's still, the information is available in the archives, but we'll bring it up again. Because it was there.
I think we,
Your
My right
phone?
arm was cut off.
I think we discussed,
Thank you.
that, I believe it was lacrosse that was happening now at the track, and that the practices would be in the afternoons, and that the track times, usage of people walking around the track would start at a later time, because it would be dangerous for people to be walking during those practices. who's gonna let the community know? Because it's weather's starting to warm up, if ever, and people just assume, okay, it's 7 o'clock, I'll meet you at the track, let's start walking, and the track's not going to be open. We need to either put that on our website, or what, we would do it on ours, and the schools would do it on theirs, but somebody has to let them. Because, there are people talking that they wanna get out to the track and start walking again.
There is signage there that says, join activities,
But there is a
And-
schedule.
They had a full schedule. They were supposed to post it on their website.
Can we post that?
They may,
Yeah,
but that's really
Yeah, but the
not-
public doesn't know that they
The
can't
public
walk
isn't gonna
then.
look at that website before they go walking on the
I mean, I
track.
think it's a certain time that it says, after, what was it, you can't walk until 8 now. I mean, I think people just need to know that, be prepared during, I don't know, April, May, June, however long the lacrosse practices and games go, that you can't walk along the track. I think we really need to figure that out and put it on our website.
Well, the newsletter, is that too late for this
No.
one?
No, we can put it in the newsletter.
Just, for safety concerns,
But I think that
that just to be aware that,
I still wanna check though and see if it was put up because that.
No,
that
I
was
did,
one
there
of
is
the
a
things.
link on their
Well,
website,
we-
that's
we
the
certainly-
schedule of activities, but
But
by
it-
me seeing lacrosse practice, it doesn't mean, I wouldn't know that I can't walk on the track.
But I thought, the version that we saw also spelled out on the same sheet when you could and could not walk on the
And we wanna
track.
be, whatever, we wanna be
No, that
consistent.
it just showed when there
No.
are activities, but when we had it, but doesn't the safety concerns aren't there.
Okay, cause it mentioned it, on the sheet that they gave us, it had it.
Here's the track usage. And it just,
It doesn't say you can't walk.
yeah, but what, people, they're
It's
not
just
gonna
not
go, it looks to me like it's just a school schedule.
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily go there and understand that I can't walk on the track. I think it needs to be its own separate notice.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
that-
close
that-
to
Currently, though, keep in mind, people can walk on the track during the day till 3:15 or 3:30, whatever time
For
they get
people who
there,
come home from work, you can't start walking until 8 o'clock, it looks like, right?
as long as there's something on the field, yeah.
And if people say I'm gonna meet you there at 6:30 after dinner, you don't want people to make plans and then not,
Cause I thought
be
they said that they
disappointed.
put up signage.
Kennel with a full
when the
Yeah,
track was
but
closed.
I don't wanna drive to the track and then know I can't walk.
6:30 is doable.
Okay, I'm
Well,
not,
if-
No, you know
I'm
what?
not sure
I
about
have
the
a girlfriend who'll say, let's go walk
We
the
can-
track,
we can-
and you're
we
not
can-
getting dressed to go
We
walk.
can make every effort to inform the residents.
Yeah.
I don't think we can expect that people aren't gonna show up anyway.
No,
but we
absolutely,
need
but
to-
we should do our
We
part.
need to do our part, absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything?
Did we approve the resolutions? I don't
No, we don't, that's
No.
just for information now.
That's at the
We do
public
that in
meeting.
public meeting.
I just wanted to add or inform you, just in case anybody should say something to you, that as far as I know, there's at least 8 members of boards, committees, or commissions who failed to turn in their financial disclosure forms in 2014, despite the fact that all of them were reminded quite a few times by the chair of the committee or the secretary of the committee. For example, Board of Health, where Val is the secretary, the planning board, where Val's the secretary. Lindsay reminded people on the Board of Adjustment, and the the HPC, I'm sure these people were reminded by the borough clerk. We still had eight various volunteers who have been fined $100 each. Most of them have taken the time to complain to us. It's difficult to advocate for people that were reminded and just failed to do it, but on the other hand, it's also difficult to get good volunteers. And this is not a Tenafly problem, this is a state problem. This law has been on the books for many years, it's never been enforced, and now the state is looking to collect whatever money it can from anybody they can get. And so it's unfortunate, and these people are complaining to us, but like I said, this is something that's going on throughout the state. I know Lisette, at the clerk's meeting, they discussed it, at the administrators' meeting, they discussed it, and at my mayor's meeting, we discussed it as well. So we
Do you
just
take
have,
notice from the state when that happens?
well, Lisette got, I don't know what the time frame was that you got notice that these people had not complied.
I had last year when they implemented it first time online, I had notified everyone that the April 30th deadline was extended. So the first notification went out in May, and then the second notification went out in August.
But did you get a specific notification as to who had not complied?
Yes.
And did you inform these people individually?
Yes.
And they
Because then when the state sent the letter about the fines, instead of them sending the fines, they had me send the letter of the fines. And I had to certify that I sent the letter with the fines with my state license number. And when I did notify the people, I put a copy of the initial email and the follow-up email. So all the proof was there that they were contacted.
So if you don't complete the form, you can still serve on the committee? It doesn't bar you from serving on the committee?
No, but you have to pay the $100.
You have to pay the $100 for all, and you can, and still not do it?
Yeah.
No, well, they'll increase it. This is the first time they're implementing it. I'm sure
The state
if
doesn't want
they
you
see a
off the board, they
repeat.
want the fines.
What happens if you don't pay the fine?
They don't want you to, they don't want you to.
Yeah, if you don't pay the fine, what happens?
What are they gonna do to you?
Doubles next year.
Take my
That-
firstborn?
Suspend your driver's license.
Huh? Oh,
Suspend your driver's license, add to your
Okay.
tax liability.
I don't know, but,
Okay, well, that's.
it's
However, the
unfortunate,
state
you know,
collects money.
this coincided with the fact that they went from the paper forms, which are innocuous, you could fill them out in 2 seconds, and if you handed them out in a meeting, you could collect them at a meeting, to online, and that's where the problem began, because some people struggled, I know I had a difficult time getting it done online, but some people didn't even bother.
Most people, if you're using your tenafly.net and you forgot your password, I don't know what my password is, I had it stored. If you forget your password and you put to reset the password, it will go to your spam filter. So you would have to check your spam filter
Yes.
and notify technology, hey, release this message because I need this.
I was
forgot my name.
I was trying to reset my password about 6 times before Lisette said, "Look in your spam filter." And there it was. But all I did was click on it, and the email came right up.
That reminds me. I
That
do
is.
have one more item. My mailbox is chock filled, the borough mailbox, and not for, we have a meeting tomorrow at 7:30. All the garbage is really deleted, but a lot of it has to do with bid correspondence, which there's a lot of correspondence. We're not supposed to be deleting any of this stuff. And I just do not have the storage capacity to keep all of this information. I deleted only the innocuous things, but everything is on there with regard to that. And I know Jeannie called me, she says, I can't send you the police report because your mailbox is filled.
If you log in, if you delete, it's not deleted.
I know, I went to the
you-
deleted pile and took that out already too.
No, but if you log in, because of Oprah's and everything that I receive, I just can't maintain all my emails. If you log in the borough, the full version of Outlook, they have something called a Barracuda archiver, and it will bring up any email. You just put in like a date range or a sender. That's how I could do my Oprah request. I could go emails from my first day I started here. So it's on the server. You just can't access the Barracuda. You can't access the Barracuda in the web Outlook. You have to come here and use one of the computers.
So if I can delete everything I have here, let's not,
Yes.
a fair portion of it, then come here if I need something. And log on and get it. I have to go through this software to go get it.
Yeah, it's right within Web Outlook. You just click it, and out will come a box, and you put a date range or a sender or a topic,
And
then
it's guaranteed to be there. Because that we're supposed to keep all this correspondence on
No,
there.
it's kept on their servers now since
Backed up.
for several years, for a number of years now. It's been backed up.
I've been able to go back to emails from when I first started 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Can we ask IT for more space?
All right, if nobody has anything else, we'll go into closed session. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.